Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sikes. My name is Sikes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out last week's episode. If you're one of the people who listened to that conversation, I hope you enjoyed it and thanks so much for coming back. But for those of you out there who are new to the show, welcome. Please feel free to make yourselves at home, and as always, there's beer and soda in the fridge. How's it going, everybody? Happy Monday to you all. It's been a pretty busy week for me, just working on new Sikes stuff, working on projects with some friends. Not going to get into all the details of that, but helping out some friends with some art things, going to some shows, playing some shows, the usual. It's been tight. A good week. I want to take a quick moment to tell you just about a few things coming up. I'm going to keep the intro a little bit short this week because the episode is crazy long and I don't want to upload a 3-hour video today. So let's try to keep it tight. Coming up, the next Sikes and a New Violence show is going to be March 16th at Club Cafe. And the next Greywalker show is actually the same night, much later in the evening. We're playing the 1-year anniversary of the West Side Bowl out in Youngstown, Ohio. So yeah, if you are close to Youngstown and you want to see Greywalker, come on out to that. We're playing later in the night, I think after 11 p.m. Sikes is playing at 7 p.m. at Club Cafe here in Pittsburgh, so I'll be able to make it to both shows. You don't got to worry about that. But if you are in Pittsburgh and you want to see Sikes on the 16th, come on down to Club Cafe and check it out. And same for if you're near Youngstown, Greywalker, 16th. We'll be at West Side Bowl. One thing I haven't announced yet on the show is for Emo. I don't think I've announced this yet. Maybe I have. I don't know. But Emo Night Karaoke. You know it. You love it. Maybe. I don't know. But it has just moved from its previous venue to the Smiling Moose, which is the new home of emo bands, Emo Night Karaoke thing. And I'm going to be part of this now, DJing downstairs. The karaoke will be with the live band will be happening upstairs, and I'll be downstairs DJing. So that should be fun. That's going to be a monthly thing. I'll be there. The first one is March 22nd. So if that is your jam, come on out. I think I do remember talking about this last week. Yeah, I don't know, but it's still coming up. So yeah, and we have just announced this week, but April 12th, we'll be doing podcast night at the Tolma number 2. That's going to be with me, the Thrifty Podcast, and Neon Brainiacs. That should be a really good time. The last one was fun. I had a piece of food just kind of come back up. You ever have that happening when you're talking? That was real weird. I don't know what. It was like some leftover pizza or something. Sorry that happened on camera. Hopefully it didn't look as weird as it feels. Anyways, podcast night at the Tolma 2, April 12th. And speaking of Thrifty Podcast, I actually recorded an episode of the Thrifty Podcast this week on Thursday, and that episode is up now already. You could check that out on Thrifty Podcast. If you look them up, they're available on Spotify and wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Google, the internet. Look it up if you haven't checked it out. For those of you who aren't familiar, it is a thrifting podcast where the host, Toddy Tondera, will take his guests thrifting with him, and you pick up a haul and then you go back to his place and we record an episode about the things we found, and he ties it in really cool to personal things about the guests, and it's a fun time. It was a really cool episode. Check it out. I highly recommend it. And I think that's all of my promotional stuff. Yes. Hope you took notes. If you didn't and you just want me to get into the episode, we're getting there. Just hold your horses. We got listener questions. Yes. So the first listener question comes from my friend Brenda of the band Old Game. And Brenda asks, worst interaction with a promoter and what you did. I guess the question would be, what was your worst interaction with a promoter and what did you do? So I've been playing shows for a long time and I've dealt with a lot of promoters. And fortunately, I honestly can say that I haven't dealt with too many bad promoters. I've dealt with promoters that are notoriously bad, but for whatever reason, I've generally had pretty positive to okay experiences with these people. I don't know if it's just a matter of me, understanding how to navigate relationships with complicated people better than others. But with that being said, I've definitely had a couple experiences that were, less than favorable. And the thing about both of these experiences, though, is that they were with people that aren't traditionally promoters, just artists or, somebody that for whatever reason is throwing an event and they just don't have it together. And both of these situations are money involved. The first was a situation where I got asked to play a show. We show up to the venue. It wasn't really like a real venue. It was more of like a bar venue situation. And there wasn't a PA there. So the promoter got a PA, basically we show up to the show and there's no PA. And the promoter wasn't aware that this was going to be a thing. The air quote promoter. Again, this person wasn't actually a show promoter. So, what the fuck do you do? They go out of their way, I guess, that day, like as the bands are loaded in waiting, they go and rent a PA. And then they just rent the PA and then ask the bands playing to pay for the PA, basically. Like they wanted all the bands that were performing to chip in for the PA that wasn't at the venue when, the promoter maybe would have known that there wasn't going to be a PA there, or maybe would have thought to ask. And it was a really shitty situation because, there wasn't a whole lot of people there to begin with. And they weren't asking for a lot of money from the bands to help pay for the PA, but there was nobody there. And it was paying to play a show to the other bands on a weeknight at some weird bar. It was just not a cool situation. And I was a little bit younger and a little bit angrier at the time. So the way we handled that situation was we were basically nope, not doing it. Packed up our stuff and left. In retrospect, it was kind of shitty, especially for there was a touring band and I think all the locals left the show. No, everyone was fuck you, we're not paying for this PA. You should have fucking done your research and known that there wasn't going to be something here. And I feel bad about it now because again, it wasn't a show promoter. It's not somebody that maybe would have had all of the forethought to put it together, but it was somebody that had played in bands before and probably had thrown at least a show or two in the past, so maybe they should have known better. But yeah, that was just a shitty situation, and I handled it in a shitty way. Another situation that's really similar is actually more recent, and it was something kind of common. I got to the show, and there was a PA there, and everything was cool, but the air quote promoter actually asked me to help pay for the venue. Basically was asking all of the performers to throw in money towards the rental space because them as a promoter, I guess they rented a space that was a little bit over budget, we'll say, and they didn't tell anybody about this in advance. So you show up and you're all loaded in and it's oh yeah, by the way, I'm gonna, if you can, I'm gonna need some money to help pay for the space. And in my head, I'm yo, fuck you. Why don't you book your show accordingly if you don't think there's gonna be enough people to, budget this out accordingly so that the attendance can help cover the venue and, help maybe pay for the artist instead of asking us for money. If you would have taken that responsibility and that forethought, we wouldn't be in this situation. But again, somebody that wasn't traditionally a promoter, and it was more recent, and over the years, I've gotten a little bit more empathy in me, and I kind of felt bad. I understand it is a shitty situation to be in, so I was just kind of okay, cool. So I pitched in my part of the money. I played my set. I had a good time. But, that's just like, it's still like a shitty thing to do. And I would say, if you're somebody that's watching this that doesn't traditionally promote shows, but you might find yourself in a situation one day where you will be promoting a show, don't do that. Make sure your bases are covered. Don't ask the artist to help pay for the fucking space or the PA unless it's in advance. Don't do it day of. Don't just throw it in our lap after we've already fucking, taken off work or, moved plans around or, we could have been doing other things. And then you're like asking me for money on top of taking off work. And it's just, it sucks. Don't do that to people. Talk about it in advance. If you don't think that you're going to be able to afford the space or there's going to be an issue, be transparent, work it out before the event. Most people are more than willing to help out in certain ways, to help make sure everybody has a successful event. So yeah, don't do that to people. That sucks. And that's how I handled it. I know people probably have other stories with promoters that are worse than that, but those are the two that really stick out to me as just being like, ugh, fuck. But, 2 out of, hundreds of shows that I've played over the years really isn't that bad. For the most part, it's just making sure you stay, you keep communication open with people. And as an artist, if you're doing a show with somebody that isn't traditionally a promoter, it may not be the worst idea to actually go out of your way to ask about, like, yo, is there going to be a PA there? If you see that it's at a space that you think might be a little expensive or a little crazy, it might not be the worst idea to be like, yo, like, I know this space is kind of big. Are you sure that like it's the right space for the event? Is there going to be people there? Are you going to be able to afford this? I don't think those are bad questions to ask a promoter if you take what you're doing seriously. So yeah, that's my answer to that. Hope it was entertaining. I'm sorry if it wasn't as scandalous as maybe some people were hoping. Like, I'm not dishing out the shit on any promoters out in the city. Ugh. Yeah, I don't have anything that bad to say about too many of them, unlike a lot of people. But that's just me. I don't mind. There was one more question that came in through Facebook. I was only going to do one question today, but this was a pretty good one. And I'll try to answer it quickly because, again, today's episode is long. So, Miles Mahoney, my homie from, 2,500 bands in Pittsburgh, asks, how do you combat doubt or low points in your artistic endeavors? Everyone deals with it, but I'm interested in how people handle it in their own way. So, okay, how do I combat doubt or low points in my artistic endeavors? It's really circumstantial. It depends on what the low point is. I've definitely gone through my fair share of low points. And I think that what usually gets me out of it, ironically enough, is just whenever I have like an artistic breakthrough that kind of knocks me out of it. There may be some times where, maybe I'm playing like a string of like bad shows. You get like 4, 5, 6, 7 shows in a row and they fucking suck. And like you're asking yourself, why do I keep doing this? Ugh. And then, you just play one more show and it ends up being fucking fantastic. And it's like it completely turns it around. You're like, yeah, that's why I'm fucking doing it. Just like being in the experience of allowing yourself to have an experience that reminds you why things were great. And then the same thing goes for if I'm having a hard time like writing new songs or coming up with something. It's always just allowing myself to be comfortable in that. How did you put it? Comfortable in the in the doubt. Yeah. Being able to find comfort in that doubt and understand that sometimes you just need to take a break and take a step back from your art for an idea to actually come in or just smack you in the face, whatever it is, So that's how I handle things now. Just being patient and, empathetic with myself. And I'm not a fucking robot. And there's going to be times where just things aren't working out, like there's going to be bad shows. There's going to be a lack of creativity. And, it helps to just know that that's natural. It's part of the process. And it also helps too to just like be surrounded by creative people, which I know, Miles, I know you are, and I am, and a lot of us in the city are. We're surrounded by creative people doing really cool things that, support you, people that support me, and just trying not to take that for granted or forget it. There are people that have your back and they understand that, everybody goes through it. If you're going through some shit and you need to take some time away, like nobody's going to fucking judge you for that. Everybody's just going to want you to be, the best that you possibly can be. And sometimes that's just taking a step away from the art, dealing with whatever you have to deal with and just waiting for the art to come back to you. Like I said a few moments ago, I'm not a robot. You're not a robot. And things aren't always going to go according to plan. So being able to understand that and kind of prepare for it when it does happen mentally, it helps me out. Maybe you feel the same way. I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. And with all that being said, let's get into this week's discussion. So today on the show, I got my friend Bracey. You may know Day from the Drinking Partners podcast. You may know Day from his stand-up comedy. And you also may know Bracey from the Fresh Fest Beer Fest. And real quick, before we get into this week's episode, I do want to explain something. You'll notice that the footage looks a little weird, and that's because we actually recorded this episode in my house with no power. The power was out at my house. It went out about like 15 minutes before Day showed up, and it did not turn back on until way later after he left. So there's no lighting. I had opened up the blinds. Luckily, it was daytime. So yeah, the lighting's a little weird, and also about 2/3 of the way through the conversation, the camera actually cuts out because the battery died. I couldn't charge it. Luckily, the audio recording went throughout the entire episode, so we got audio for the full episode. But yeah, about 2/3 of the way through this conversation, the video cuts out. So if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, expect that. But if you're listening to the audio version, disregard it. Doesn't matter. You'll get the full episode. So yeah, just wanted to explain that real quick. And without further ado, let's get into my conversation with my friend Bracey. Sit back, relax, and let's start the motherfucking beat. All right, cool. And I'm not going to explain this too much to you. You know what it is. I think you've done 100 or 200 podcasts in your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
You guys are pretty close to 200 now, right?
Yeah, the next episode is 200.
Nice. My 200 just went up last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
funny because we started like right around the same time, so we're both honest. I think I was on like episode 16 or 17 of Drinking Partners. It was early.
Yeah, it was super early. Like the first maybe 6 months we were in there.
But how's that been though? Like
what the fuck we were doing?
200 episodes in. Like, what do you feel like you've learned as a whole about yourself and the world around you?
There's a lot of beer out there.
Yeah, that's for sure.
A lot of that. I don't know. Just man, it's been so much. Like I was in my comedy career. I'm in comedy for about 6 years now, going on 7, and I started the podcast 2 years in.
Yeah.
So like I was still kind of like new. I was still new in comedy, and then I got into the podcasting, like as a way, like me and Egg, as a way to like kind of help our comedy career. And, it just became a beast of its own. Like it didn't even it was just like, oh, well, this is just another, little kind of like project that we'll do, here and there or whatever. But like, man,
kind of took over, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's, it helped in so many different aspects, of our careers, and even like, added so many more branches to it as well. So, I mean, like, I didn't expect to like, be doing a fucking beer festival 4 years
Yeah.
ago, 5 years, what I mean? Like shit, 2 years ago, to
I
be honest.
definitely think the one thing it probably did the most, whether it was expected or not, was it just opened up the door to people that probably would have never known about you otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
Like real
And
talk, like I'm not connected with the comedy scene in general. And then there's the whole weird thing in Pittsburgh where you got like the white comedy scene and then the not white comedy scene. So there's
yeah,
a good chance that I would have never even known who the fuck you were. If
yeah,
it
no,
wasn't
I
for the
mean,
podcast.
yeah, I mean, most people wouldn't have known who we were. I mean, we have a finite amount of people that we can touch when we're in a room. I mean, there's like,
Yeah.
if we sell out, you're looking at anywhere from like 150 to 300 people at a time. Whereas like with a podcast, I mean, we're getting like 1,000 like listeners or whatever. I mean, like, and they could be anywhere at any time, and it's always there. I mean, it's a way to, get to know somebody a bit, a bit deeper in that personality. And like, it's these days people are investing in people and not brands. So, like the more people like know you, the more that they want to kind of invest in, who you are or whatever, So that definitely helped, us like get our name out there, but also like introduced us to a bunch of people that we didn't know were out there. I mean,
Yeah.
and as a result, like we've learned, like, I mean, I've learned so much from so many different people, like having these conversations, these, hour, 2 hour long conversations with people that are like, extremely driven individuals and accomplished in their craft. Like, I mean, when you throw a little bit of beer in there, it's a social lubricant,
Yeah.
like it's crazy. So, I mean, and drive is infectious. Like, whenever you're, sitting with somebody and you're hearing their story about, the shit that they've gone through and like, what they've learned and like, what they have going on, whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
you kind of like don't want to be left behind. So, you gotta, you get out there and you work yourself. So, yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing journey in the last like 4 years.
Yeah, it's wow. There's so much going on. It's funny to your point about people being more invested in you as a person and not so much brands. Have you found it complicated because part of the podcast is being a brand and you have some stuff that you want to kind of market and get out there, but people don't give a fuck about that. As soon as you're talking about a thing that you're doing, people are like, I just want to hear you talk about some bullshit,
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, why do I even bother like trying to do anything creative when people just want
Yeah.
me to fucking bullshit? But on the flip, I think you did really well with the first year of, Fresh Fest, which we want to get into because, we do have number 2 coming up in
Yeah.
August, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
it seems like people were into that though. So that was something that was cool that,
yeah, I mean, it's
but that's also like, I think you're offering something that people can be a part of. You're not just like flexing on people. Like, look what I did.
Yeah,
You're giving
yeah.
people an opportunity to be a part of something.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. I mean, it is tough. Like the person versus like the brand and all that. How
But
much of
let me ask you this. How much of your listenership with drinking partners do you think translates to like coming out to stand-up shows and vice versa? Do you think there's like 2 different audiences?
I mean, there's definitely 2 different audiences because you're looking at like, a finite like time and space that you have a show at. I mean,
Yeah.
like, so if you're not available on Saturdays in downtown Pittsburgh or Cranberry or wherever, that we're at that time, then you're not going to see us.
Yeah.
But with a podcast, you can listen to that morning, noon, and night. So there's definitely, like you don't even have to be watching us. We could be in the background or whatever. So like, definitely a different audience, but they're overlapping. I mean, like it's a Venn diagram of
there's
folks. And I mean, we've our sellout rate is pretty phenomenal as it goes with like shows and comedy shows. And I think that's a direct result of the podcast because
Cool.
it allows people to. Like I said, I mean, if they're listening, they want to support, they're clicking, they're sharing. I mean, like, so they're telling people that what we're doing and whatnot. So even if they can't make it there, like, they want to support us, so they'll let their friends know, and then people come out to the shows as a result.
You guys are really good at reminding the listeners to like, share, and review on iTunes and shit like that.
Yeah,
I'm so bad at that.
We picked that up from Does This Hold Up, man? Like we didn't know shit about podcasting, and we sat with those guys and like like watched. They had been doing it for like 3 years at that point, and like they were so like professional and spot on, and like they had this like back and forth. Like I mean, it was like magic. We were like, oh shit, that's what it's supposed to sound like. Like it was because what we were doing was fucking terrible. And I mean, like it's still, I mean, we were still terrible for another good like 2 years. I don't know why the fuck people listen to any of our early shit. But yeah, those guys were extremely supportive. You know, got on the first couple of podcasts, and you know, we got to see their live show and whatnot. And yeah, we picked up like with that intro, you know, and it was nice because once you get it out of the way, then you can kind of get into the, like, and they had a nice little structured back and forth at the beginning, and then it got loose and it was, got into the interview format or whatever. So it was, super dope watching those guys. And just, I mean, it's just like any other like art, like, you watch folks and you learn like the skills of the trade. I mean, like going into it. So
with that being said, don't forget to like, share, rate, and review the show. I with drinking partners, the thing that I've found so cool about it from the jump, it always seemed like two people that are learning and really excited about learning with guests that are on the show and watching it develop, which was really cool seeing it, eventually this Fresh Fest evolve, which I know there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen of Fresh Fest. I'm not just going to throw it on your shoulders. There's a lot of people involved, but you're definitely an important part of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Co-founder. And yeah, no, it really is a community project though. And that's what's crazy about it, because we were talking to Celine Roberts. She did an article about, diversity in the beer industry. And she featured myself and Mike Potter in it. And, she asked us both, like, she's like, why is there, a lack of diversity in the industry? And, like the answer is basically systemic racism. I mean, like, at the end of the day, there's a lot of barriers, financially, economically for, a very disparaged, group of individuals. Malt liquor is marketed to us. There's just all of the American, barriers or whatever. And she goes, well, how do you like solve that? And it was like, I don't like, how the fuck do you solve that? Is a pretty tough, situation.
It's like really similar in a way that like maybe even something as simple as podcasting could be in the Black community. Like maybe not so much now, but think like, 5-10 years ago when all this shit was like really new and hadn't popped off yet.
Yeah. And
people were like, what the fuck is that? How do I get on that? Just, it's like it's like a whole world that they're not connected to, just like how craft beer is.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, we're in this like me and Ed are in this confluence of whiteness. Like in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is this extremely white town. Comedy scene is extremely white scene. Podcasting is extremely white scene. Like, and the beer industry is an extremely white scene. So like, we're so there's a lot of the things that that we do that we try to with Fresh Fest that it kind of allowed us to like bring all of those circles together. But yeah, there's a lot of those barriers because again, I mean, there's if you don't have first and foremost, the median income here in Pittsburgh is like for blacks is half of whites. It's like like 27 versus like 56. So when you have less money, you have less time, you have less freedom.
White people are making that much money?
Well, yeah, I mean,
not.
This is neither am I. But yeah, I mean, it's like so when you have less time, you have less like ability to like pursue artistic endeavors and things
Absolutely,
of that nature.
yeah,
I mean, like equipment that you need to buy like in order to get into hobbies and whatnot, and like things of that nature. And then even like in the culture, like the know-how, even like that stuff is passed down when you have an education that someone's paid for, and then even if you get a couple of people pay for it, they'll come back to the neighborhood and like teach some folks. You know what I mean? Like so. There's quite a few barriers or whatever, and with Fresh Fest, we were able to offer. We wanted to build something. We wanted to offer like basically access to it in a safe space. It's kind of tough to get to go around in Pittsburgh as a black individual. Where like, I mean, if you're caught in the wrong neighborhood, I mean, you could like you could die. Like, I mean, it's really the reality of it. With the police and whatnot. So like, provide a safe space, provide access, education, with the collaborations. They're actually, speaking with the brewers, and it's like a real collaboration, not just like, all right, we got this product we want to sell. Let's put your name on it and then get as much out as possible. It's like a real conversation. Like, hey, what is it that you like to drink? What are the flavors that you enjoy? Like this is how we can, these are the styles that we have. This, that we're, and building it from scratch. That in and of itself is a learning process that like now people can go back to the hood and say, oh, I got a beer over here. And then they come in and you have you have a more diversified customer base for the brewery, and you have opportunity for the Black community because now we can learn this trade
there's a
and
lot of
open up
money in it.
a $1 billion industry. So like now we can come in and open up a brewery, and
The other thing too is like, I'll tell you this. So with me in beer over the past few months, I've been drinking a lot less just because I've been bored. Like I'm kind of getting a lot like there's just not a whole lot of stuff hitting my palate that's like exciting like it was. I think I just kind of oversaturated my own market, you know what I'm saying?
That
Like
makes sense.
having like access to all this really good beer all the time, you get burned out on it. But thinking about like what the Black community has done for food over the years, and thinking about the possibilities of that in the craft beer industry and bringing different ideas to the table just because they approach things differently would be really interesting. Who knows, maybe in 10 years, like what kind of shit could be on the table if people pick this up and start developing ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it is like you said. Beer is a food, so I'm interested in how like the Indian culture, gets into it. The Asian culture, like the South American cultures. Like how they, use their spices and native foods to kind of like inject that into beer.
I mean, like you can come across beers every once in a while from other places, or maybe it's just like influenced by a certain culture, and it's always pretty interesting. But imagine like instead of it being just a one-off experimental thing, like people really fine tune it.
I mean,
I would love to see that.
imagine breweries as diverse as restaurants in New York. Like, like where you're going down and you're seeing Black breweries and Hispanic breweries and Asian breweries and white.
That's another fucking problem with breweries right now. To me, it's like every brewery is like equivalent to like SoundCloud rappers, where it's like everybody's just trying to do what's going to get the most streams. Like, what am I going to do? I mean, I understand it's a business. You got to turn over those fucking kegs, but it's like, motherfucker. It's like last time I was in Brooklyn, we went to like a few different breweries and every single one's like IPA. It's like, okay, cool. Let me go all over the fucking city just to drink the same fucking beer in 5 different rooms.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, I understand that they sell, but like, I don't know. I think you got to have like a plan too, because that's not gonna be the thing forever. Like, how are you feeling about beer right now, personally? I know I don't want to fuck up your brand.
No. I think most I think most brewers, at least the smart brewers that are getting into it now, hopefully they understand that, like, I mean, that whole like distribution, across, the states and the country and the whole that shit is dead. Like opening up, and getting all like huge and 4 or 5 locations and all the bullshit. Like, because we're gonna hit a bubble. So it's gonna be.
Doing it. Isn't Rheingeist opening up a spot here?
Probably. There's gonna be this I feel there's gonna be a bubble at some point.
Oh, there has to be
in the next 5 years. And long term, you're looking, 10, 20 years from now, like there'll be like bars almost, like where, there'll be, their own little community, brewery or whatever. And that's really where you go get your beer there. And like, they might have some around from within a like 5-mile radius or something like that. But like, when you got like all these breweries within that, why ship in? You know what I mean? Like I'm talking to brewers now and they're like, it's hard for me to get my stuff 10, 15, 20 minutes, down the road because it's not local enough. I mean,
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I do enjoy that. I think that you would get more of, I don't know. I think you would get a bit more diversity if more brewers kind of like subscribe to that and said, listen, we're going to service our community here. So like with that, you're going to have your, your Pilsner, IPA and a wheat beer or whatever. Your little like your staples. I mean, maybe a red ale or some bullshit like that. But then like you have your like batches of shit that you that you get funky with, and you do that knowing that like I'm making it for this community, and when that community is done drinking it, then we move on to the next thing, as opposed to like what's going to get people lining up like for like cans and shit like that. Like when you start trying to hit like that, then
I mean, some breweries are good at that. You know what I mean? But there are definitely several breweries just in Pittsburgh that whenever they first opened up, draft lists were sick. Like it was like a nice mixture of things, and then eventually it all just turns into IPAs.
Yeah, I think
they're
like
not doing that cool shit anymore.
Yeah,
but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I think some breweries organically, like have lines around just because they were like the legend had like spread. And like I said, I mean, some folks like kind of manufacture and chase that like that culture.
Yeah, they're like hype beasts for beer.
Yeah. I mean, like it's just I don't know. I mean, just like standing in line
That's
at
the other
like
thing
on a
too.
Tuesday at like 9 a.m. I'm like, I don't.
Really absurd to do that for like some beer.
Yeah, I want to go out and interview him. Like I would want to like, because I just don't know what, like, man, the rush hour traffic alone for that. That's like you got to be there at 9 on a Tuesday. Like you had to go through rush hour traffic unless you like just came at like 6 in the morning.
I mean, I've gone to a few events.
Yeah,
but I could
on a weekday.
I could not on a weekday. No.
Bro, I was like, I remember. I swear I saw like I was at work the one day and like I was like scrolling through and motherfuckers like had chairs out. Like I was like, isn't it Wednesday?
I'll say this: the only brewery I could think of that I might go out of my way to get something for is a bottle release for some barrel aged shit at Voodoo.
Yeah, I mean they've got a lot of.
I might go out of my way for some of that, but even now, like there was. I mean, I saw on Facebook the one day they had they just do their bottle releases like real randomly now, where it's like, oh, like in 30 minutes these are going on sale. You can come down, and like I could have went down there. I was like, I don't even give a fuck. Like, just kind of like exhausted with it. Like it kind of ruins the magic of it when instead of like it finding you, now you're chasing it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like. Yeah. The beer never tastes as good as the effort you put into it when you're like standing in line all day and shit like that. And I could say that from the perspective of someone that's done it once or twice. It's like it isn't as good versus like somebody just happens to bring over something and you're chilling with your friends like, oh, this is fucking good.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the only way that I've ever gotten it. I've never chased a beer. It kind of just if I got to work for it, kind of like I mean, this is like fun for me. Yeah. I mean, like now, while I have taken on a great deal of stress in this industry now with this fucking festival, I mean, for the most part, it's a fun thing. And even the festival, again, is a fun thing for me. Like the podcast is fun. Like I get to hang out with like, some of my best friends and record and talk to like cool ass people. And then with this festival, like it's a community of people that like all these brewers, like, the reason why it didn't feel like a first year festival is because, I talked to all the brewers going into it and I talked to all the people around and all the food trucks and the bands and the stage guys and like everybody that was there wanted it to be a thing. And I just kind of took their advice. So even then it was fun. In that regard, I don't want to like once I start putting in too much effort, then it becomes work. Then it's like I don't even want to do this anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
it changes the whole dynamic of it. But it's easy. It was easy for me to get lost in it temporarily. Like you get because like I don't know. I just got so fucking into it, and then it gets to a point when there are certain beers that the only way you're gonna get them is if you really go out of your way for them.
Yeah.
So then I started doing that.
Those were just not meant for me, man.
It never, very rarely has it ever been the thing where it was like, oh, I'm really glad that, I went out of my way for this.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's just like, oh yeah, it's fucking It's
Yeah,
a
I mean
beer.
that's like I mean people keep asking they're like, oh man, when are you opening up a brewery? And I'm like, I don't want any fucking parts of
Yeah,
owning or operating a
that's
brewery
a whole different thing.
fucking ever, man.
Even
Like,
just something as simple. Well, a lot of people probably think it's simple to put together something like a festival,
yeah, I
but it
mean,
is not.
no, no.
That's a year long part time, if not full time job.
Yeah, no, it's definitely full time at this point. Like, it's a lot of hours. Yeah, I mean, it was. I don't know. I don't want to say lucky, but I mean, I've been producing shows for like 5 to 6 years
Comedy
now.
shows, so you have some
Yeah, so I
experience
have
in terms
like
of booking
I
and
mean,
shit.
yeah, like so like coming from that background, it was a bit like easier to kind of get into it from there. It was just kind of a progression of what I was doing, and like I was directing the Pittsburgh Comedy Festival for 3 years as well. So like I've had some festival experience. In some capacity in that regard. So like kind of just like this, was just kind of like a test to see if it could actually,
So I'm
and
curious to know about Fresh Fest. So was not able to attend last year because we had a show the same day that you did your thing. I'm gonna try to make it this year.
yeah, it was
I'm gonna
so
block it out. I wanted to be there so fucking bad. It was just one of those things. Like whenever you are, I mean, you would probably
yeah,
obviously know as an entertainer and a
yeah.
performer of
Everybody's
sorts. Like you
working
got
when
a
you're
gig, you
working.
got a gig,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, but I'm really curious just to know about anything from last year that went maybe not so well or wrong that you're trying to attack this year. Only because I think like having conversations about things that you can do to improve things is like I don't know. I like
Yeah.
those conversations, so I'm just curious to know about
Yeah, no, I
what
mean,
experiences you had that you're looking to improve.
I would definitely. So we had this like so. I mean, so Nova Place, they had the one of their irrigation system. Like somebody poked a hole in their irrigation system, so that like whole grassy area was like flooded. We couldn't use it. So our original floor plan like had all of that like that space utilized. That was like a good like 16 tents that we now had to find space for elsewhere. And that's not like 10 by 10 like tents. That's not an easy task day of like I mean walking in.
Yeah, it's like you're on some borderline fire festival.
Yeah, like I mean like, it was like wait what? Like we don't have like we can't use this whole fucking thing like so yeah, we had to like run around and like reposition because we sent out like a layout to everybody. Everybody had their numbers, they had all
that shit,
and then all that shit. So now they're coming up and they're like, "Where the fuck is my table?" And I'm like, and then we didn't even have a system in order to tell them where their table because we didn't even. And then like the company that we utilized was because like we were all scrambling at the end. Like this was all like ticket sales, so like we were buying like booking shit like the last week. Like and we had a venue change 2 weeks before the event.
Sounds a lot like Firefest.
2 weeks before the event, we had a venue change.
Minus all the bad intentions.
Yeah, we had a venue change 2 weeks before the event, and then the people that we booked the tables with like gave us 10 less tables than we booked or whatever. Like, why the fuck did you bring us? They're like, yeah, we didn't have enough, so we just gave you what we had. Like, that's not how this works. Like, what are you?
That's the funny thing because, like, obviously, kind of like just jokingly comparing this to Fire Festival because at least your festival actually happened.
I was watching that fucking documentary, nervous as shit. Like, why the fuck would you do that? Like,
yeah, but there's also the thing too. It was like, I mean, there was a lot of terrible things with Fire Festival. There was a lot of it too that like I empathized with, just as somebody who was also booked festivals like with Brutal and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of things like. I think a lot of people that watch the documentary don't understand how much shit is not in your control because you'll have things that like the rug is constantly getting pulled out under you. Like, oh, you can't do this here. Or somebody that's supposed to like, you're relying on a whole mess of people.
Yeah.
And a certain percentage of them are gonna fuck you over at some point.
Yeah.
But just like learning how to roll with the punches.
Yeah. I mean, like that's the thing that with Fresh, like I mean with and I was looking at Fire was just a motherfucker that couldn't be told no,
Oh yeah,
and
like I said,
like
there was
and
bad
he had
intentions from the
yeah,
jump.
and he had like a lot of fucking money, so he was just like throwing money and like telling people to do
Well, he
shit,
had a lot of
and
fake
that's
money. It wasn't even
yeah,
really money. He
yeah, I
didn't even
mean,
have it. He was just telling people
so
he
like
did.
when you have that, like you're gonna have people that like, I mean, people aren't really invested in it. They're just like, all right, man, just if you're gonna pay me, fuck it, then let's do it or whatever. Whereas like with Fresh, we were able to like have so many people that were invested in it. So like while that like all the shit was going bad, like the fucking we had to move the stage. We had like we recruited these like Muscle Beach dudes from like there's this gym there in Nova Place. So like there was like these like there were like 8 like bodybuilder type dudes that came out and like moved the stage. Like they put like picked it up the whole fucking stage and moved it across. Like it was like brewers were coming in, like they had like we didn't have a place for our ice. Matt brought like a fucking cooler down and shit like that. So it was like while all of this shit is like burning down, you have all these people that are really invested in it, like helping to put the fires out and like putting in that extra work
Yeah.
to like make it happen. And that's
Pun
what
intended.
like yeah like I mean, like so like that's why like it was such a beautiful thing last year because people wanted it to happen. You know what I mean? Like the brewers wanted it to happen, the collaborators wanted it to happen, like Stewards of Beer, like they coordinated all the volunteer services and they've been like running brew festivals for like years. So like they were, heavily involved. And we had this family drive up Paradise Rum. They there was like 5 of them. They drove up from Georgia, and they're like, yeah, we're up here for the festival. And we're like, listen, man, this is the VIP portion. Like your tickets are the regular portion. We were like, but I mean, since you drove all the way up here, man, just go in there and have some fun. And like halfway through the festival, like people were coming up to me like, yo, man, like this rum is delicious. I was like, rum? I'm like, oh, you mean the whiskey? They're like, no, man, there's rum here. I was like, what do you mean there's rum? And like I go over and like they have a table set up, and apparently they went to Mike and was like, look, man, we own this rum company. We got like a bunch of like in the trunk. Like, can we just set up and pour samples? And he was like, yeah. So we found them a table and they poured at the event. Like it was insane, like the type of shit that like popped up at that festival.
Yeah, that's fucking tight.
Yeah, I mean,
So with all of the chaos going on, you were still able to find some time to enjoy the festival, or were you just like running the whole time?
Not at all. Like I don't like that's why like the things that I know about the festival are the shit that went wrong. Like that's really that's all it was for me, was like a string of fires that I was putting out the whole time.
That's
like I mean I had 4 or 5 pours throughout the 10-hour event. I mean, it was I got in maybe a couple of pictures. I mean, like
that's the irony of this. Like you put all this time and this effort into this thing, literally for everybody else. Like you don't even get to enjoy it.
Not at all, man. It was the weirdest fucking thing in my life. Like to spend 6 to 8 months like on a project, and then it be like over, like just like that, and like I was like ready to turn up. I'm like, all right, guys, let's like party, like, and everybody's like, thanks.
I'm gonna put this out there this year. Just make sure Day and Ed and everybody else get their like 3 hours where you leave them the fuck alone. Let them enjoy the fruits of their labor. All right.
I'm gonna try to enjoy, maybe, like, I don't know. I mean, the thing that I guess the thing that we kind of had to we were able to enjoy was the podcast portion of it. The VIP portion, we interviewed Harlem Brewing and Black Frog Brewing out of Toledo, and it's like it was like 150 people, and just kind of like tasting all these. Somebody had brought up these like beers from Florida, so we were like tasting all these like crazy beers and having this conversation, and like that was about as much like of a reprieve and fun as I was gonna have at the. I mean, like I was running around like putting everything together, and then I stopped, had a hour-long interview with them, had some beers, and then it was right back to work. And I mean, like, people, but like the only thing, like it's a weird thing because like I said, all I know are the fires. And with a festival or any other event, you kind of want to also know what went right. And with comedy shows, I'm able to see what went right because there's more time for me to kind of like look and observe and like watch it from, yeah, I mean, like different angles. Whereas with the festival, I was too busy like running around like doing all the wrong shit. So like I don't know what people enjoyed about it. Like, you know, there's this like legend of Fresh Fest and people were like, oh, it was such a great time. But I don't know exactly what that great time was because I didn't get a chance to observe any of it. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, oh shit, we need ice. Oh shit, we need glasses.
From an outsider perspective looking in, I know a lot of people that were there. It just seemed like the majority of the people that were there had maybe never been to an event like that before, so it was a lot of discovery. You know what I mean? It's like a playground for adults to try out all these different things, like try beers they hadn't had before, see local musicians, vendors, and things that they weren't aware of, and just like have their eyes opened in this very, very like a very dense area. You know, like all this stuff happening in this one small place that nobody was aware that any of this was happening. Holy shit. There's all these people that are like me and doing stuff that I'm into around here, like in the area, or these people just exist. It's fucking crazy to have all of that thrown in your lap, especially if you're somebody that isn't part of the local art scene or music scene or anything. Like there's a lot of people that were there, I'm sure, that were just there because they heard about it.
Yeah.
And they're not people that are tied into like any sort of underground Pittsburgh thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that does make. I mean, we tried our best to, you know, and then we're going to do it again this year. Is, you know, with the collaborations, you know, giving those, you know, giving those entities like that voice and that space to kind of be like, hey, we're here, and then, you know, again, it's a lot of it, you know, was that, you know, the podcast, a lot of the people that we worked with, I'm pretty sure, just, I mean, for the most of the people that were collaborating on the festival had been on the podcast at some point that we had met, you know what I mean, and we're already like, you know, aware of and fans of what they were doing. So whereas like the podcast was only maybe able to, you know, get their, you know, who they were out to, you know, a few folks, the festival was able to get them out, you know, a bit more, you know, even with like, you know, the press and then having their, you know, their beer on tap at a place, you know, as well.
Can we touch on some of the negativity that surrounded the festival? Because we actually, the one thing that was a bummer, we actually recorded an episode last year. Remember, outside of Lorelei, and I fucking fucked up with the microphone cable again. Here I am again. Look how fucking bold I am right now. Both times I do podcasts with you not wearing headphones, especially after the last one that we did was all fucked up because I wasn't wearing headphones.
Yeah.
Here I am cocky as shit right now. Like, oh yeah, it's probably fine. If you're going to leave, it's going to be fucking trash and just wasting your time again. No, I'm sure it's okay.
No, it's always it's always a good conversation. So it's like while like, you know, I'd be like, oh man, that kind of sucks. It just was like it still was a good conversation anyway. So it's always like,
but yeah, there was some interesting negativity.
Yeah, no, I mean it was a lot of racist ass white people talking about, you know, like, oh, you're fucking, you know, you're racist. Why are you bringing things, you know, why is it about race? Why is it, you know, this, that, and the other? And like that shit is like, you know, it's wild because, you know, when it's a German festival or an Italian festival or a fucking Polish festival, like nobody's like, oh my God, why is it got to be about race? You know, like nobody says anything about that shit. Like as soon as you say a black festival, it's like, oh my God, like, you know, because, you know, people, you can't empower anyone without making somebody feel, you know, weakened by it or threatened by it in some way.
It just blows my mind that everybody, like people that take things as personal attacks that have nothing to do with them.
No, I mean, well, I mean, but it does have something to do with them in the sense that, like, if you call attention to the fact that they have some sort of advantage, now it makes them, you know, reevaluate, you know, their self-worth. Like, I mean, if you believe that you got here, you know, and everything that, you know, is yours is because you deserve it and that you worked hard, so it's supposed to be yours, then, like, somebody comes around and goes, you might have had a leg up. Then like now you know you can either one say maybe I should look at like some of my advantages, you know what I mean, like, and how I got here or whatever, or you could be like, you know what, fuck you, you know, you like we all got the same, you know, like, you know, you know, American dream, buddy, like, you know.
It's so funny to like boil it down to being angry about like something as trivial as a beer festival.
I mean, but
I mean, it's not surprising, but it's
not,
just so
yeah,
like
but it's not
fucking
a,
corny.
but it's not a, but it's not about a beer festival for them. When you put black in front of it, now it's political. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
because you're calling attention to race. You're calling it like, and like not, again, not the cool ones, not again, not the not the Germans and the Nordics and I mean like all like, you know, you're talking about the black folks now, you know what I mean? And like, you know, here in America, we don't really want to talk about the black folks. You know what I mean? We don't want to like call attention to that problem that's here. I mean, we kind of just want to, you know, everybody's everybody. We don't really want to
Sure.
see color, because if we don't see color, then none of this, like, you know, none of this really matters. You know what I mean? Like everybody that gets it has it coming because they deserve it. So like when you call attention to that and say, hey, like, you know, let's celebrate the black culture, then people start to kind of be like, but you know, what about me? What about me? You know what I mean? Like, and it's hard to, you know, it's the same thing with you know, with men. Like, I mean, you have, you know, anytime you call attention to like women's issues or whatever, and they're like, oh, you know, some dude comes out and is like, oh, you know, not all men, or like, you know, let's charge women for like, you know, false accusations. Like, what about that shit? Like, I mean, it's always some like dickhead that's like, come on, man. Like, I mean, because they feel threatened in some way. Like, if some soft egoed men are like, oh my god, like, you know, you're a woman, you should be, you know, doing this. This is the way it should be, or whatever. I mean, it's the same thing with, you know, with the white folks when you say a black beer festival. But at the end of the day, you can't really like. It's good that they react in that way because they're starting a conversation. It's a conversation that needs to be started. I mean,
that, and the irony of it is the fact that they're reacting the way that they are only proves the importance of what you're trying to do.
yeah.
It really is like this needs to be a thing, because like there are people that are still upset and still think about these things, and that's why we need to, you know, make the voice of this louder and let people know that, like, you know, we're human beings too, and we're into the same shit that you are.
And that's,
but like, we know, and it's like, just because you put black on it doesn't mean that it's about exclusively black people. I mean, it's like the Black Lives Matter thing. That's not what it was about 100%. It's still about like humanity and being, you know, wanting, you know, equal rights for fucking everyone.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's you know, like it's we're celebrating black culture just like we would celebrate any other culture or whatever. But like what's telling is that like it's all positivity. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we have these collaborations. We have, you know, we're bringing in the community. There's a rainbow of people involved in this, and it's all positivity. We're uplifting folks. You know what I mean? Like in this celebration, and when you see this all positive thing. This isn't even like this isn't a kneel. This isn't a protest. This isn't a like militant thing. You know what I mean? Like it'd be one thing if we were like, yeah, let's like take to the streets and like, you know, demand our rights in the beer industry and like, you know, strike. And if we were on some like negativity type shit like that, like I could almost kind of like see motherfuckers being like, all right, yeah, I mean, whatever. But this is all positive shit where we're just like, yo, hey, let's get together and make some fucking beer and dance and have a great ass time. And people are like, oh shit, why is it like, and they're like, you know what I mean?
You're
like
asking for one day to be like, hey, we're here too.
No, we're not we're not asking for shit. We're doing it. We did it. Like I mean, this is what we're doing.
Totally.
We're saying like you know like. We're saying everybody come. Like the motherfucker, like I said, I go to motherfucking German festivals, man. You know what I mean? I go to fucking Polish man, I love fucking some lasagna at a motherfucking Italian festival. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm gonna go to those festivals. Y'all come to our festivals too. You know what I mean? We're not even like
complaining. Why don't you come out and see what it's all about?
I mean, we ain't like black only. This ain't about segregation.
Yeah,
this is about a celebration of who the fuck we are. I mean, we built a lot of shit. Like, I feel like we deserve a party. You know what I mean? And so I mean, like I said, I mean it's like I said, it's nice in that regard because, you know, with that negativity, all I do is kind of like say, hey, you see that? That's why we're doing this. And it speaks for itself, like, because there's really no negativity to be had here. So when you see that negativity from them, then it allows at least some folks that that are on that fringe that like to maybe sometimes believe that racism doesn't exist, or that like, we're moving past it, or that, we're in a post, America. They can go, maybe there's still some work, that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And yeah, they, and hopefully, they start to get to work.
So moving on from negatives
Mm.
to positives, there's a whole lot of cool shit happening this year. One thing are you doing 1 day or 2 days this year?
So we're
So I remember seeing something about 2 days, but I don't know, like.
So the festival is going to be from 12 to 10 on Saturday, but we're going to also have a like meet and greet with the brewers Friday night.
So more like a socialized.
Yeah, like like a beer share,
like
with
a low key type thing.
like
Is
with
that also at Nova Place?
No, we're still
Shopping. Gotcha.
shopping the venue for that one. But that'll be like a low key. So the VIP ticket is $150, and that covers the VIP session for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Sunday.
So yeah, there'll be a Sunday.
Sunday.
There's a Sunday brunch as well.
Oh, okay.
So
you still
like,
working on that spot too?
Yeah.
Right.
So like we'll have, the VIP ticket will cover all 3 of those events, and then on top of that, we'll have maybe another 50 tickets available, like that you can just purchase separately for those events. But yeah, so I mean that'll be, kind of like a bottle share, couple of like, little panel, kind of some discussions. On Friday. Saturday, we're going to have a VIP session from 12 to 3. We'll have a podcast with Garrett Oliver.
That's fucking awesome. That's happening.
Yeah, that'll be at Alloy 26. Same as last year. We'll have a DJ.
For anybody that doesn't know Garrett Oliver.
Yeah, he's the head brewer over at Brooklyn Brewing.
Yeah, you may have heard of them.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a really, really smart dude. Kind of, I don't know. He's one of those like beer legends, like
Brooklyn. They're a pioneer in the craft beer game.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. I mean, he's a kind of a big deal, and he happens to be black. So
It's wild. Like going in there. Like I've been to Brooklyn Brewery.
Yeah.
And, like they have like posters in there from like old beer festivals that they did in like 1993 craft beer festival. Like,
yeah.
What the fuck?
I haven't been
I don't
down
even think
there
it said
yet.
craft beer. I think it was just like, beer festival. But like thinking about them trying to put together that culture for that long.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much of like the East Coast and their involvement in getting beer over here. Like the craft beer thing, just in general, like Brooklyn Brewery was really big. And then there was that dude, I think his name's Tom from Monk's Cafe in Philly. Like he was the dude that like basically one of the people that introduced like Belgians to America.
Yeesh. Yeah, I mean,
you can go to the fucking brew pub in Philly.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. If you've never been there, highly recommended.
No, I have not been
there.
Yeah,
Monk's Cafe. It's a tight spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and like those are dudes that like that all that shit was happening in the early 90s from my understanding. And,
yeah.
like they're still in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's quite a few legends out there. I'm still like a novice when it comes to like the beer industry. Like, that's where like I tell like it's nice to I'm gonna get a chance
more than
to,
you realize.
I mean, I know some things, but I mean, there's still quite a bit out there that I don't know. And that's why like it's fun getting to learn all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like putting on these festivals. Talking to these brewers, and they're coming, and like this year, super excited because we've got people coming in from, all around the country and like, even the world. We've got folks from, Canada and Guatemala and India coming in.
That's fucking crazy.
And, I'm going to get a chance to sit down and have a one-on, kind of one-on-one with Garrett Oliver at this festival.
You've been thinking about like what you want to talk to him about, ask him. You're just gonna do it the way you always do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure as we get a little closer, we're gonna get hit with a lot of like folks that have, like, hey, make sure you throw it out there. Out there.
Yeah.
It's like, anytime there's a big guest, somebody's like throwing us like, the good questions to like ask there or whatever. But also like, we also kind of wanted it to be a little bit more of a, drinking partners kind of loose format to see where it goes.
The one thing that I really respect about Brooklyn Brewery is that, and maybe they have a luxury of doing this because they've been such a staple for so long, but breweries like Brooklyn Brewery, and Bell's is another one. They never seem to get on hype trains. It's like they do what the fuck they want to do, and they make, nothing too like bougie or out of control, like all just simple, really good beers.
Yeah.
But the thing that was fun was the last time I was at Brooklyn Brewery, they have like a tap room exclusive stuff, and it's all weird, funky, crazy stuff. I was like, what the fuck? You would never expect Brooklyn to do that. But like, my question I'd be interested to ask him is just like, how thoughtful or how much thought process goes into the stuff that you put out to the public versus the funky stuff. Maybe they know that it's not gonna market really well, and the reason why they're as big as they are is because they kind of like they stick to the hits.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I mean, especially with like the volume that they're at and the consistency. I mean, it's like it's crazy. I mean, I don't think. I guess the average beer drinker, or even like the newer, folks getting into craft beer, understand how hard it is to be consistent. Year in and year out for that long. I mean, because there's even some breweries that like, once they reach a certain, production level, like it changes and their product is like different. I mean, or they change management, or they change, or whatever.
I was just at Founders in Grand Rapids. That building is so huge.
Yeah.
Like their production facility it's insane. It looks like a fucking like an airplane hangar.
Yeah.
Like the amount of space that they have in there, but it's like the amount of beer that they fucking put out is like it's astronomical.
Yeah, I can't even imagine like what that is, because I think the biggest brewery that I've been to was Trogs, I want to say, and from my understanding, like Trogs is maybe like a quarter, if not less than the size of like Bell's. You know what I mean? And
Bell's is pretty big.
Yeah, I mean Bell's is fucking huge from my understanding, and Trogs was for me like mind blowing. I mean, I was like, how the fuck?
Yeah, like
like it was just huge. I was looking at a tank, like fuck. So like I couldn't even imagine. Spot. I couldn't even imagine. And I'm excited. I mean, like as in my beer journey, I'm get to travel a bit more.
They're another brewery that's really good at avoiding the hype trains.
Trogs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they put out a lot of funky shit, but I think that because they're still really only distributing, from my understanding, like in PA or whatever, so they don't like, so they get and they have such a devoted following, and they have that that Scratch series.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of like I don't know. I feel like they're doing it right, like in the sense that like they have their shit that's like they have their Scratch series where like, I mean, it's not always like a hit. I've had some Trogs where I'm like, man, that's not it for me. You know what I mean? But like it never stays around for too long, and they have.
I think with breweries, a note that is maybe worth taking is something that I would say of any like musician or a restaurant or whatever. I think the important thing is like in the conversation of life, what are you and your brand bringing to the conversation? Like, do you have your own voice, or are you just like saying the same shit that other people are saying?
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. I think breweries like Trogs and Brooklyn, they have their like unique voices, so people are excited to have quote conversations with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, full disclosure, we're doing a collaboration with Trogs, so that's
what?
Yeah, that'll be
what?
dope. Yeah,
that is fucking sick. Is that for Fresh Fest?
Yeah, it'll be the Fresh Fest collab.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah.
Have you? Is that like?
This is the first time I've been telling anyone.
Oh shit, dude, that is fucking awesome! Congratulations.
Yeah, so that'll be kind of dope.
Kind of dope.
Yeah, yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
And then BBC is doing a collaboration with Brew Dogs.
Okay.
So that'll be the our
BBC, that's Black Brew Culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Potter.
Yeah.
He's co-founder of Fresh Fest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just kind of dope to get to work with work with
Do you know
breweries
Do you
and
know
whatnot.
what kind of beer you're doing? You got some ideas out
No,
there?
we ain't even. We still gotta get together and get to talking and figure
Talking and
out
sipping.
exactly. Yeah, get to figuring out what is gonna be.
Yeah.
I don't know, because those dudes are. I mean, they can do just about anything or
Oh
whatever. They're
yeah.
like super like weird. So like
So
it's nice to like I want to kind of talk to them and see where their heads at and see where we like
yeah,
you mean talking about and
my
then come up with some
question
crazy
is like
bullshit.
right now with beer and you and your beer journey, as we'll call it. Where do you feel like you're at now? What kind of stuff are you into? Is there anything specifically, or are you still just kind of where
Um,
you work? 'Cause, like, I always took you as just like, if it's good, I'll fucking drink it. I don't want to invest too much into this.
yeah, I mean, like I mean, I'm still very open to like whatever's out there. Like if somebody hands me something, I'll try it. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. And I can, I can taste the quality in something and not like it. You know what I mean? I could be like, well, this is a well crafted beer. It's just not my thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, some folks, when I first got into it, I was like, well, IPAs are supposed to be the thing, right? Let's drink, and oh, what are you doing drinking that? And, kind of like, the judgmental side of things or whatever. But now I'm like, some things are good, some things aren't. I love barrel aged shit. So like, that's like for me, like my favorite, like, style of beer.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like barrel aged IPAs. I had a barrel aged IPA and I did not enjoy it. I don't know if it was just that
What do you know?
particular
What kind of
one.
barrel it was? aged
It
in?
was a whiskey barrel.
Okay.
It was actually like it was a Jameson barrel. I think it was.
If you ever get a chance to have a gin barrel aged IPA,
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah, I don't
Because
know
the
if
gin
I
has that
don't,
same like the like gin has that kind of like that pininess sort of
Yeah.
thing. That goes really well. It balances really well
Yeah.
with an IPA.
I might have to like. I mean,
It's worth trying. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah. No, I would try it. I've had a couple of gin barrel aged things. I don't like. I think what is it? It was like juniper is the thing
Sure,
that's in
maybe,
or
I don't
whatever,
know.
some kind of whatever that like because I'm not a big gin fan. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean, like so there's something about but I mean. Like the darker the better. You know what I mean,
I feel you,
stouts,
yeah.
porters,
Yeah.
and like there was this like when I first started getting into beer, there was like it was the age of like everybody was barrel aging every fucking thing. So like it was like on tap of plenty and like it was like
yeah.
almost like year round, like and I fucking love that shit. And then the haze came in and it's
Yeah.
been haze for quite some time.
I'm not a fan of it.
No.
No.
I like
a good beer is a good beer, but there's just something about, regardless of the flavor of beers, there's something about the hazy beers that just make me feel a little extra bloated and kind of farty and just
Yeah.
like I don't like the way I feel. It just doesn't react with the chemistry of my body for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
I tend to like stay away from it.
Yeah, I mean there is a lot of shit in it. I mean it's a big it's a big complex beer with
Yeah.
there's all kind of so like there's more in it than maybe even needs to be in it. You know what I mean, so I can see that, and I know a lot of people have had that same complaint, like putting like oatmeal in it and shit like that, and all
it's
like
like
just
a
as
little bit too much. I mean, I guess I get it, but at the same time, it's like I like beers that still taste like beers. If I want a fucking juice, I'm just gonna drink a cup of juice. You know what the fuck I'm saying? Like,
I want
like-
beer
it's like-
flavored beer.
I mean, like, if there could be some nuance, but it would be like like I don't know, if fucking like Metallica recorded a hip hop song.
Yeah,
It's like I don't want to hear that. If I'm
Yeah.
listening to Metallica, I kind of want to hear a heavy metal song.
yeah, no,
You
no,
can do it, so it's like
Yeah, I mean,
if it's a beer, like I just kind of want some beer.
I feel
But
you.
I'm still down to try whatever.
I mean, I love those fucking like slushy beers. Like I love all the weird shit,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
You know what I mean, but like I can only have like one of those weird shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like I love the weird shit because I love to see what you can do, where you can take this genre. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like
I
mix it
agree with
up
that.
and like, whatever. But that doesn't mean that that's going to be my thing. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to have one and be like, you know what? That's really good. But then I'm going to go back to my shit. Like same thing with like a hazy, like, it's like I enjoy the hazy because it's even when you fuck it up, it's still like a fruity fucking, yeah, I mean, like, and it can hide a lot of imperfections, and like it's almost like, so if I go to a brewery and it's not a great brewery, but they have and I look on the tab, like if they have a hazy, I know I can get a hazy and it's gonna be just,
Fine.
it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be
Yeah.
drinkable. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, and that's really like why I enjoy that. Like, as opposed to like a pilsner or a lager or whatever. But it's not like, I'm not like, man, can't wait to go get the new hazies that's better out. Like, it's not my go-to. Like I said, now if I come to your establishment and you got something barrel aged, I'm like, yes, give me that, please. You know what I mean? Like, because it is a bit more, it's a bit more expensive. It's a longer process. It's usually some care has been, taken in that beer. It wasn't just like haphazardly like thrown together, as an afterthought, or you're chasing a trend of some sort. Like,
have you had that the banana coconut barrel aged dragon's milk yet?
I did. I had that out, like we were out in Cali at Pabst, and they had, because Pabst actually runs the marketing for the sales for New Holland.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I had that. It was like a reserve, like the banana coconut. That's fucking ridiculous.
It's
oh
gnarly.
my god. It's
I was gonna ask you. I was like, that's the most recent barrel aged beer that I've had that I was like, whoa.
Oh my god.
There's so much good. Like unique flavor in this. It still tastes like a fucking beer, but it has like the right highlights of those other flavors.
Oh my god, it's so fucking good. Yeah, it's just I love Dragon's Milk as is. You know what I mean? Fire. And then I was banana coke. I was like, what the fuck is what? Because I hate coconut, like the actual coconut. I don't like the texture of it, but I love the flavor of it. So, and then we put a banana in there, and it was the right balance. Like it didn't taste like some artificial sweetener type shit. You know what I mean? Like I hate banana, like artificial banana flavoring. You know
like
what I
the
mean?
banana
like,
popsicles.
Yeah, like I mean exactly. Like, or like Laffy Taffy
Runts.
And shit like
Remember
that.
Runts?
Yeah, like anything banana flavored, like that artificial flavor is trash. So like I knew that like this was like conditioned or had like actual bananas in that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, so it was. Oh, yeah, no, that was phenomenal. I was at Goodwood.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a whole barrel aged festival. It was the first time there. I didn't like
Did you stay out of trouble?
No. I was relatively put together by the end of it. So which is all I was hoping to be.
Yeah.
With that and it was that was like heaven for me, man. Like that was I mean, of all the beer festivals that I've been to, that was like the best, like one that I've,
right up
because
your alley,
it was like, it was there, down at East End. It wasn't like too many breweries. It wasn't too big of a thing, like more of a, smaller kind of affair. And like, I mean, it was like quality as fuck. Like, and like all of the brewers were there. You know what I mean? Like, so, that's what like, I like to go to brew festivals and like the gatherings, the ones, where the actual brewers are going to be there, where you can actually have a conversation with the people that are making it, and not just like maybe some reps that are standing by, or some volunteers pouring or whatever. Like, it's an actual, that for me is like, an actual festival that like, so I don't know.
I find that fun too. There's something where there's beer festivals I've been to where, you'll see like, oh, like, it's advertised that there's, Bell's, Founders, Trogs, like all these people are going to be there, but it's just like festival volunteers pouring kegs that got sent there.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, like I don't know. I just feel like I'm in Market District, but outside.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I don't like if I see any like big out of town like brewer on a thing, like I don't even like.
And you want them to like bring unique shit too, like, you know what I mean? It's always just like all like standard stuff being poured by people that know nothing about any of it.
Exactly. You're not having a conversation about the beer anymore. You're just like, it's almost like you're just like checking off from on Untapped and being like, well, we got this beer, you know what I mean? Like on to the next one, and then I mean, like you can really, I mean, how many can you really have? I guess if you're really dedicated, like, I mean, shit, even like, I mean, even at Fresh Fest, like it's, it's a problem that we we run into because we, like I don't want it to be this big
Yeah, I mean, you got
Walmart like
20
type.
breweries, right?
Yeah, we got 20 black breweries coming in, and then we have 40 collaborations, like on tap. It's
Nobody can try 40
nobody's
beers in a
they're
day.
not gonna do 40. Like I said, I was there last year. I had 4 of them, and then most people, like if they really put it on, like they would go through maybe 20 samples, and that's like
That's a lot
that's
of
like
fucking
yeah,
beer.
that's like sip, like
yeah.
spray, throw, and like go on to the next one or whatever. And like
Fucking,
that's not
24-ounce pours. That's like almost a 6-pack of beer.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like
If not more. I can't do that math in my head.
yeah,
quick.
it's a lot of beer. I mean, it's like 240s.
Well, I would say if like a bottle is what, 12 ounces, so 3 4-ounce pours is one bottle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
3 divided by 20.
Yeah,
That's,
I mean,
that's
like
like
6,
about
7.
6,
Yeah,
7,
I mean,
That's over it. That's more than a 6-pack of beer.
yeah, exactly.
Because
I
you're
mean,
also never just getting 4 ounces of beer. There's
Yeah.
always a little extra.
yeah. I mean, some folks will like pour out. Yeah, I mean that's why we have to have like dump buckets,
Oh,
like
yeah, they,
spray
like, take a
bottles and
sip
shit.
and
They
then,
take
like,
a sip and then
yeah.
they like throw, because you're not gonna like everyone. And honestly, like I mean, I almost feel like if you like everyone, then it's probably a failure of a festival, because like you should have a diversity in flavor that like. I mean, maybe you are that type of person that just likes everything, and your palate is so, diverse and
another
whatever.
thing I
But
was gonna say is I think that something that I haven't seen beer festivals do, like say like you have a pamphlet or some sort of a guide that's telling you where everything is, having like a suggested route, like starting from light to dark or something like that for people that aren't experienced, so they don't drink a bunch of crazy shit, fuck up their palate, then go try some like stuff that's not so crazy and they're not even getting the right flavor.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people want to be that nerdy about it, but it might help to just be like, yo, the beginning of the day, like here's your lights, a suggested route.
Kind of rude.
Like how if you get like a flight of beer somewhere, how they'll put it in the order that you should drink it, like the recommended.
Yeah. I mean, I guess with that you'd be coordinate with brewers to bring in various like styles and shit like that.
Or I mean, just like knowing what everybody's gonna have, and then you just
having
put the list together based off of that.
Well, whatever. Yeah, I think once we get like maybe like more people onto that shit, and I'm thinking about that shit right now. That sounds like 13 hours of work. Like
I don't know about that. I mean, you just get all the like everybody knows what they're brewing at some point, right? Like they know what they're gonna bring, or they don't.
Oh, I mean, I don't. So, I mean, it's crazy because what I found was that, like, I was like, "Hey guys, like, get like, I need the tap list. Need to know what you guys are bringing. What are you guys bringing?" And like, I don't know. I think part of it was they didn't want, like, because like with the collaborations, like some of them wanted to be like hush hush about what they're doing and kind of like, so they're like they don't want to tell what that is going to be or whatever. You know what I mean? And then like I don't know if they're like ahead of time thinking like which other two they're going to have, or if they're looking at their inventory and going, well, this is what we have on stock, so let's like, I mean, like I don't know how they're thinking, and then I don't even know
of all that shit.
Yeah, and then I don't even know how like like not all brewers and the people that I have the point of contacts with are as like organized. You know what I mean? So like, getting information from them isn't always as.
I think there's a qualification in order to brew beer. You have to be terrible at emails.
Yeah,
they won't even let you in there.
Yeah,
like if like you need to have your email. If your email address isn't like Yahoo or Hotmail, if you got like a Gmail, they're like, nah, you're not. You're too ahead of the time.
You gotta have an AOL account
to
get in. Yeah, no. So I mean, it's and that's the problem with like again is any event or production is like you're working with artists, and artists are fucking lazy and entitled motherfucking people, man. Like Jesus Christ. Like I mean, they're great and they're hardworking like individuals in their like in their field or whatever, but like they're not always as gifted in the like the business side or whatever, which is why they have a team of people around them. I mean, like I wish I was so talented that I was able to just like have people around me that would get the other shit done. You know what I mean? Like, and allow me to just do whatever the fuck it is that I do. So yeah, I mean, it is, like when you're working in this like production side of things, like it's all independent contracting. I mean, like, so, sometimes like, I'm hitting up an artist for like a month, like, hey, can I get a picture off of you so that I can put it in a fucking newspaper that's gonna like get you seen on a bunch, I mean? Like, so, and then you're dealing with egos because folks want, more stage time or this or that, or they want, I mean, it's a thing. I mean, not to say that like, it's all bad. Like I love, most of the people that I work with, but I mean like, anytime you're working in this, in this industry, you're working with, personalities and that's what, that's what this industry is, where, that's why we're, that's why we were two people talking into a microphone.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, where our egos are big enough to think that, like, what we say matters. You know what I mean? Like, so anytime you're dealing in that realm of ego, you're gonna, have a bunch of, like butting heads and a lack of.
You got to deal with it. I think the only way you can really have a successful event is, being able to empathize with people's egos and just compromise and try to work with them to make it
ego or lack of various other skills, because like like whatever got that person there, they're there for a reason. I mean, so they clearly have some skill set that just might not be it. I mean, like I know I'm super, like I said, my emails, I'm pretty terrible at them, like, but like I'm terrible in a sense that like
maybe you should open a brewery.
Yeah, like but like it's like I can only, I'm terrible for, I guess, in all of the means of communication. That's like my worst section.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, of it. I can't be that bad, but I'm like, but I've got like 5 or 6 accounts that I got to fucking juggle, and there's all these fucking folders, and I fucking hate those guys. And it goes to spam or some shit like that, or just, I don't know.
It's hard to keep up with it. It's so fucked up that like over time, like somehow like the world convinces you to get all these like different email accounts. It's like you gotta have all these different social media accounts, and then you gotta have like, I want to make an Instagram page for Fresh Fest, but I already have one for Dave Bracey, and I can't use the same email, so now I gotta make some new bullshit email, and then now I gotta start checking that email.
Yeah, it's such a.
And before you know it, it's like, what the fuck? It's like we're all living like 10 different lives.
Yeah. Oh, it's such man.
Like I checked last night. I just realized that like I manage 5 different Instagram pages.
Yeah.
That means I have at least 5 different emails.
It's fucking insane, man.
Why?
Yeah.
Why can't I just do all this shit under one email?
I know. I find like I'm so often I'm just like, because then whenever like that's the thing. You ever have a conversation with somebody and then a month later forget where you had the conversation with them? Like, I don't know if it was on Twitter or if it was on Instagram or if it was an email, and if it was an email, which email account did I do it in?
To me last night. Last night.
Was it a text message? Like, I know I felt like, was it a Facebook message? Like there's a billion ways to contact people now, and I'm like, I know I fucking said this to you, so like I wish I had, like, there was a universal fucking like search bar on my phone or some shit where I could just punch your name in, and then every fucking, but then in order to do that, you would have to have access to every, like, oh man, it's such a, yeah.
We're getting through it though. We're all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I hit you up. You got back to me pretty quickly. We made plans, and now we're sitting here doing it. So not all hope is lost, right?
Yeah, we're not doing too bad for ourselves.
So, I mean, Fresh Fest, August 10th.
Yeah.
Nova Place, tickets on sale now.
Yeah, freshfestbeerfest.com.
What else you got going on? Anything else coming up?
Man, so we got.
I can let you know like when this episode will be out.
Yeah, we got
look that up real quick.
We got March 16th. We got a show at Arcade every third Saturday of the month. We have a stand-up show down at Arcade Comedy Theater. Me and Ed take turns hosting that. We have all new comics every month. And it's always BYOB and free beer, free craft beer. So like
from different breweries.
From different breweries. This month coming up, we got Hop Farm. handing out samples.
What day did you say the next one was?
March 16th.
Cool. This will be up on March 11th. So
nice.
Check that out this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't get out this weekend, then like I said, it's every third Saturday, and it's always free beer and BYOB. People are like, I don't know why people come to our shows. To be honest, it's a weird thing because they'll walk in and I'm like, hey, free beer over here. They're like, there's free beer here, and I'm like, why the fuck did you come if it wasn't for the beer? Definitely wasn't for the comedy. I'm not here for the comedy. Like I'm here for the beer. And it's they're nice sized pours. That we hand out there. The brewers are very generous in what they give, and it's also BYOB in the sense that maybe you don't like beer, so you want to bring wine or some other type of alcohol, whatever you're into, you can do that. And it's a cheap night, and great comedy. And then we have every last Saturday month over at Compton Theater. Same thing, BYOB, free beer, different comics and whatnot. We get shit faced and have a good time. And it's all about for us, the same thing with Fresh Fest is all about providing a value, having this high quality product for dumb cheap. You know what I mean? For $40 you can have a date night, and it's all it's all there. You don't have to, it's not like you go to Improv and you get some free tickets, but then you get hit over the head with the 2-item minimum. And now you got to get 4 $12 Bud Lights.
Yeah,
it's a dope little, kind of, and so yeah. And it's, like I said, it's nice because you get to not only get to experience some local comedic talent, you get to experience some local breweries too and what they have on tap. So
yeah, if I would say that's a great way to learn about new breweries without having to go to a brewery.
Exactly.
Or
pay for beer.
See some comedy, learn about a lot of new stuff.
Funny
things. There's actually one more thing I want to talk about that hopefully isn't going to spiral into. If it does spiral into a big, longer conversation, we're here. It's fucking tight. It's all good. But so kind of tapping more into comedy and your role in comedy and the world of comedy right now. There's a whole lot of people shouldn't say this or do that, yada yada yada, you shouldn't joke about some things versus anything could be a joke. What spectrum, where on that line do you fall as a comedian? Where are your values? I know it's probably a hard question to answer.
Yeah, no, I mean it's so for me, you can joke about any fucking thing you want to joke about, man. I mean, that's just it's free speech. Freedom of speech means that, as long as I'm not there's no danger, directly, if I'm not yelling out fire in a crowded theater type shit, if I'm not, telling somebody to murder you or whatever, you can say whatever the fuck you want to say. But with that, comes consequences. You know what I mean? And that's the thing is that what a lot of people, they get all oh my God, people are so sensitive and blah, 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 blah. And it's you fucking bitch ass motherfucking bitch. You know what I mean? The people that are moaning about people being sensitive are the sensitive bitches.
Sure.
Because so they don't like what you're saying. So the fuck what? You said it. You get to are you in jail? Did they take away your freedom because they didn't like what you said, and then they said some bad words back to you that you didn't like, and now you're oh my God, why are you so sensitive? If you don't like what they're saying, then shut the fuck up, or this. Yeah. There's nobody's saying it. So freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences, freedom from negative reactions. You might lose your fucking your platform. Your platform isn't guaranteed to you under the right of the First Amendment. That's not
sure.
What a First Amendment doesn't give you a stage. A First Amendment doesn't give you anything other than the government's not going to come through and lock you up as a result. So I mean, like I said, when I look at comedy, me personally, every time I create a joke, I got to know who I'm creating this joke for. You know what I mean? Who my audience is, and I have to also know that there are going to be consequences for, this joke if it goes wrong, if it goes to the, wrong person. I've always known that. I mean, if you look back into my shit, 10 years ago or whatever, like there might be some shit in there that like, it was like some wild shit. And because nobody's born woke. You know what I mean, as we're all evolving. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
like, and that's, as a public figure, we're evolving publicly. So like, my mistakes are out there for people to like, scrutinize. And I don't believe in scrubbing, like the past and, presenting yourself as always, in the know or whatever. Like all of our heroes, all of our predecessors were faulty. And we are faulty individuals.
Sure seems that way.
You know what I mean? Like, so, like, yes, like if you see some shit that I said, 5-10 years ago or whatever, or you know what I mean, like you call me on that and see if I'm still that same person. Like, you know what I mean, if that's still my track record, if I'm still, exhibiting this behavior, then call me on that. Or, you say, that's what it was 5 years ago, but like this is what I've learned since then, and this is why I've changed my behavior. You know what I mean, like, but again, that's how I approach, me and my comedy or whatever. But like, like I got into it with a comic, this Owen Benjamin dude, and like, he was, he was out there, he was out there like, he had this song, that nigger stole my bike. And he's over there, singing on, on the stage or whatever. And like people are reaching out to me like, oh, hey, can you help him find a stage? And I'm like, no, fuck this dude. So then like the swarm of bears came in, like they called themselves bears. And they came in and like swarm my mentions. I was called like a nigger at least, 4 or 5 times within like a half hour.
Yeah.
All of this, rhetoric or whatever. And then I noticed like, okay, this is more than just like, a guy with a couple of bad jokes. This is more or less like, a kind of a leader of a faction of people who is using this, stage as his kind of like, platform to continue pushing this hatred, on other folks. So, I said, listen, man, if you're working with this dude, you can't work with me. And that turned in, to it was just gasoline on the fire or whatever. And like, it became, a bigger thing. And the thing that people kept like, throwing out there was like, oh yeah, like, how are you, like, you're taking away his, his freedom of speech, da, 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 da. He could joke about anything he wants. And again, I was like, listen, man, like I will die for your right, like to defend your right to do that. Like, I mean, you should be able to tell those jokes. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to tell those jokes. Like, you have a Twitter, you have a YouTube, go on whatever stage you find, like that's your right to do that. I would never say, hey, we need the cops to come over and arrest this dude because he's singing about niggers stealing his bike. I would never say that. But I personally don't want you coming into my city and especially in an extremely racially divided city that, especially with all of the shit going on, and stoke those flames and give, 500-600 people a room to congregate.
Yeah, I'm not going to help you.
Facilitate this like in my city. I mean, and so yeah, yes, you have the right to say whatever joke you want, but you also have consequences for that. And I also, as a person, have a right of freedom of speech too, so I'm going to use mine too. You get to say, "Hey, that nigger stole my bike," and I get to say, "Well, if you work with him, you don't work with me." And then let the chips fall where they may. It's both freedom of speech. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like that's what I think that people don't like. They want freedom of speech, but then they want like freedom from consequences as well. And it's like that's not how that shit works.
No, yeah, I honestly don't think people are any more air quote sensitive than they've ever been. It's just we have this platform to be directly connected to each other that maybe we didn't have. Or we didn't have it in like the 70s, 80s, or 90s, and now it's there.
Yeah.
And in the midst of everything else that's going on around everything, I can understand why some people would be upset about some things that are being said. I do think that everybody has the right to do whatever they want. Like fucking like Louis C.K. can go tell whatever jokes he wants to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, in full transparency, like a lot of people were big fans of his, and like his comedy always made me uncomfortable. I don't know why. It just, there was something about him that it didn't click with me. So but that was just, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. I mean, he said some shit that I thought was funny for sure. But most of the time I was like, there's something about that guy that I don't like.
Yeah. But
that's just me. He can do whatever he wants. But there's, to your point, going back and people pulling up things like, 5-10 years ago, like Kevin Hart, the shit that happened with him recently.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, okay, like, the stuff that he said, I don't even think it was a funny joke, even though he was joking. But at the same time, like, I worry that if you don't, if like there isn't a road to like social redemption or forgiveness for people, it's
Yeah.
like why say like I'm the person that says some fucked up shit
Mm,
and I acknowledge like, look, that was fucked up. I'm really sorry. If
mm,
nobody's ever gonna give me the opportunity, like nobody's ever gonna accept my forgiveness,
mm.
why should I even bother trying to be a
Yeah.
better person?
Yeah, and I think that at least the way that I view things is that, there's a genuine, you know what I mean, like growth, and then there's that the bullshit, you know what I mean, where you're just apologizing because you don't want to lose fans, or you got caught. And I think that like the people who matter will know. So like if I was on this back in the day, I was on this like words don't have a meaning unless you assign value to them, like kick, you know what I mean? So like repurposing words and shit like that. So like I dropped I was like told this the N-word joke and the F-word joke and all these different, I was using this like offensive language and going, let's repurpose these words for this, and then through a lot of understanding and talking or whatever, I was like, I realized that like it's a little bit bigger than that. You know what I mean? Like that actually does have, like kind of like in that sense that where Dave Chappelle was saying like, I'm telling these jokes and people are laughing for the wrong reasons. It's the same thing where like you repurpose these words, but not everybody is going to have that same. And because it has a more negative influence on the greater public, it's better, it's better for me to just keep it in that, I mean, where it's at, and then educate, differently. But if you go back into my shit, you'll see that. Now, if I was still using these words or whatever, then like, and that comes up, people are going to be like, oh shit, he's still like the same dude or whatever. But if you notice it, there's the last occurrence of that is like there's a good 4, 5, 6 years, like separation from that. So like, same thing with like Kevin Hart or whatever. Like with Kevin Hart though, he was just like, whatever, I don't like, I mean, da da da. And then like it was like almost indignation.
It's a fucking tweet. It's just like some throwaway bullshit.
And like, and like you, at the end of the day, when that comes up, and like I said, when people come at me with pitchforks, as they will at some point, or they go at anybody, I think you have to just state your case, say, hey, this is where I'm at. If it really was genuine growth, if it, and say, hey, this is where I'm at now. That's who I was. And then let the chips fall where they may. And the people who I believe that are your like core fans or your followers, or the people that are close to you, are going to understand that. They're going to see that it's, for what it is. And then you're going to keep pushing it forward. And the folks that don't, then they never really were going to, they were just waiting for a reason any motherfucking way. Like you live by the sword, you die by the sword. It's fucking entertainment. Like we're all in it until it's fucking. I
think there's something to be said with that too. Like when you're becoming an artist or a musician or anything, like your early material is like not the best. Like you do things with like, like as a comedian, I imagine like it's really hard to get into this space where like you're able to just be yourself 100% and be funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think like most comedians probably starting out, it's like this exaggerated character and just trying to come up with material that is somehow funny. And like, you're probably gonna like go on these extremes that it's like, you go too far. Yeah, maybe even now, like when you're developing material, like you hit an extreme that's too far and then you dial it back into a place. It's just like, your brain goes in like terrible places. Everybody's brain does. You know what I mean? And you're always going to laugh about shit that you shouldn't laugh about to yourself.
Yeah.
It's just part of being fucking human.
Yeah. Comedians by nature are kind of darker and twisted individuals. Like, because all comedy is born in tragedy.
Yeah.
So like you're exposing your souls and your soul and your like all of your inadequacies, like, to the public, and allowing, them to, laugh at you. So it's a pretty dark and twisted thing. What is it? Twain said that there's like, there's no laughter in heaven. You know what I mean? So like, there's that part. So yeah, some of the jokes that like come to mind, I would never probably utter to another human in existence. Like, that come to mind.
And everybody has those thoughts.
Yeah, but when you come in, when you first start out in comedy, for the most part, you're at these open mics and you're at these bars or whatever, and like people may be there for the comedy. Most of them aren't. They're there just to like have some fries or at a, you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
watch a game or have a beer or whatever. And to be honest, like there's a bunch of comics that are just annoyed that you're there. They're waiting for their time to get up, and maybe a couple of people that will maybe pay attention to what you're doing and give you a couple of laughs, so you can go and critique that and become better. So in order to get their attention, a lot of the shit that you're saying is kind of like shock humor, because you want to like get the people to turn around and be like, oh, what is he talking about over here? And that's what you see in a lot of the new younger comics that are coming into the scene. Like it's all like really like raunchy and edgy and shock and like, whatever. And you kind of like, once you start getting like paid gigs regularly and like you're getting crowds that are actually coming to watch you, then you start to have to like tone it down and be like, all right, now that I have your attention, let's like actually start
They're
to have
actually
some kind of like
they're
some
coming for a focused
they're coming
reason.
for a focus. So like now you could start to kind of dial it back a bit, and just have like, real adult human conversations that are funny, as opposed to this like kind of shock shit. And that's a progression. That's a journey, because like, I mean, I would get in front of these fucking people in a theater and I would be telling these like crazy ass dick jokes and shit like that. And they're like, and I'm like, yelling at them and doing all this shit. And they're like, they would be like, yo, bro, what the fuck? Like, why are you, I mean, like, I'm here. I'm like, right here. Like, why are you, I was giving them this bar energy, and it was a theater. So like, that was a part of me that I had to be like, all right. And you see it in all the young comics and as they progress. So yeah, all of your material when you get in it is trash. I don't know what art where your material isn't trash at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As a musician, as a painter, as a, whatever it is that you're doing, as a brewer, whatever you did when you first did it is
It's
trash.
like being a baby learning how to walk. Right?
Exactly.
Just fall on your face.
Yeah.
Over and over until
Yeah,
you
I
figure
mean-
it out. You brought up one point that I kind of want to end on, and you had mentioned, about Dave Chappelle and his comments of like his jokes resonating with people for the wrong reasons. And I
Mhm.
think it's really important to acknowledge that, because I think there are some people in the comedy world that don't seem to acknowledge that. Like people that I think of, like a Joe Rogan, for example, who has this crazy platform. And, I don't think he understands that there's a demographic of people that watch his show and take his information like for the wrong reasons. Like they hear the things that like they want to hear about uh whatever, like a particular topic,
Mhm.
and then they throw all the other things out the
Mhm.
window that might counteract like
Mhm.
his thing, because like he talks about shit from all over the place, and he has people from
Mhm.
pick a point on a fucking map, and
Yeah.
but I worry sometimes that there are some pretty extreme people that are into him and other people that listen to his show and like, but don't take everything that he's saying uh into consideration. Like they only pick
Yeah.
out the things like somebody like fuck, I don't even want to bring up his name, but like a Jordan Peterson
Mhm.
is like somebody that's like, a lot of people were like, oh, this dude is super fucking racist, and some people were like, what are you talking
Mhm.
about? And it's like, I can understand the perspective of like somebody that is racist, like taking somebody like Jordan Peterson's words and like taking them in a context that works for them, but
Mhm.
maybe isn't their intention.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even think I'm smart enough to have this conversation, but I'm just like,
I don't think that like I don't think that he's oblivious of it, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I think that he's very well paid. I mean, his podcast is like, what is it, the number one podcast? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like, and when you're at that level or whatever, like it's not like you're oblivious to the feedback. People are screaming it from the rooftop. When you pick your guests, you know exactly why you're picking that guest. It's all very calculated. There's no like, people are just like bouncing around and some shit like that. You don't have a machine like that. And he has stand-up specials. He has, what I mean, like he has a whole franchise of like Joe Rogan is a franchise. You don't build something like that without knowing exactly who your audience is and what they like and why they like
and even
it.
like a Louis C.K., back to him, I think that he's another comedian that, his humor targets a demographic of people that they might not care to admit that it targets. Like
Mm.
they have an audience of shitty people
Yeah.
that are that they're probably into terrible things, that think the stuff that he's saying is funny and think he's serious.
Yeah.
I mean, you might even get that with like a Bill Burr or somebody like that. And I like Bill Burr a
Yeah.
lot. But like I could definitely see him having an audience of people that are just like real shitty white dudes
Yeah.
because he makes jokes about
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah,
They,
I mean, like I said,
they take like sarcastic comments as like very genuine things.
yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, there's a level of comedy that you just can't, like, there's a level of just any art that you can't, like, people are gonna like it for some weird ass reason that you don't even take on. Yeah, I mean, that you don't intend, especially with something like, comedy where, like I said, not everything that I say is serious. And like there's times where like I'll be saying shit online and people will react to it, and I gotta be like, bro, you gotta calm down. That's not where we're going with it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, like,
These
and they're
are still, I think, like
they're
maybe,
like they're like they're like I'll say something jokingly and they'll take it seriously and like be kind of like pushing it, and I'm like, no,
it's
bro,
like people forget that it's comedy.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, bro, you got to like kind of pull back. This is like, no, and if you're thinking that, then you're wrong. That's like, stop that way of thinking. You know what I mean? Like, and I can see if you, as you get bigger, like, if I put out a joke or something like that, and say Joe Rogan puts out a tweet, and then he gets 20,000 replies or some bullshit like that. Like, I'm sure of that 20,000, I mean, like if it's mostly positive and you get a couple of fucking dudes that are like, take it the wrong way or whatever, I can see how like, you really can't do anything about that. You can't explain every joke every time and be like, hey guys, just so you know, these are just jokes or whatever. But like, I feel like there's a I guess a saturation point, or there's some sort of like line where like, all right, man, this isn't just a couple of stray people. This is like a good portion of your audience. You see what I'm saying? And I think that's where it was with Dave Chappelle. He was like, all right, man, this isn't just a couple of people like, taking it the wrong way. There's this growing faction of people that are like consistently like taking it this way. I need to change course. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's what, for me as an artist that I respect, is a person that says, all right, well, if there's enough people taking it the wrong way, I need to change course, because that's not, and I feel like, the Louis C.K.'s and the Joe Rogans kind of like, they know it, but it's lucrative. So why not? You know what I'm saying? So there's a bit of a difference between like, a couple of knuckleheads that are just always going to kind of like, whatever. And then, like, shit, that's a couple of checks a year that you're getting off of these folks. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. We could keep going. Camera died. It's all good. Still have audio rolling.
Nice.
So fuck it.
Yeah.
But I think we're good.
Word.
I could ramble on about this shit for a while, just because like these are things that I take in and I have these thoughts, and I very rarely have an opportunity to talk with anybody about it that has any idea what I'm even talking about.
Yeah, nice.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean,
there's just like people that like work, and these people that are like more behind the curtain in terms of like comedy and shit like that, and just knowing what your thoughts are on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't often get
you hear people screaming, but it's like the only people that I hear talking about it are people like, people on podcasts or shit, or like, people that are fans of comedy and stuff like that. Like I have a couple friends that went to that Louis C.K. show, and I didn't even realize they went, and like they were just like, yeah, we went to this thing, and they said it all casual, and I was like, kind of like, damn, like you went to that?
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean? Like
that's a side eye type
look,
thing.
Yeah,
like,
I was kind of like, shit.
Yeah.
Like,
really, bro?
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. But like, whatever. I guess free country, do whatever the fuck you, whatever whatever you think is entertaining. It's just it's like one of those things where it's like, I don't know. When it comes to art and things like that, if I think somebody's shitty, I have no problem not separating the art from the artist. You know what I mean? Not that, like I mentioned before, I was never a big fan of Louis C.K. to begin with, but you get those people that are like, oh, what happens in their personal life and what happens, in their comedy are two different things. And for me, it's like there's so many fucking people that do comedy or make music or make movies that if I find out one of them is shitty, I could just remove them from my my personal interests,
Yeah.
and I can watch somebody else. I feel like
There's a lot of fucking artists out
a
there.
big
It's
part
crazy.
of art, I think, that like is intent. And the reason why I like art, what attracts me to art, is people that put themselves into their art.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean to tell me that like if I'm into somebody's art because, you know, they put themselves out there and they're very transparent and they're able to turn it into this creative, beautiful thing, that they end up being a shitty person, that I should just split those two things? It's like, no, it's all connected.
Yeah, I mean,
It just seems like
I've had to cancel quite a few folks, and like I said, I
it
don't.
seems like such a lazy thing to say, that like, oh, I could separate the art from the artist. It's like, no, you're just being lazy and you don't want to take the time to invest in like
Yeah,
finding new other talent.
yeah. Like I said, I mean, because
watch.
like if you're actively a terrible individual, I don't want to put money in your pocket anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it. So
I don't even like going back to breweries. Like, I think I said this to the Reclamation dudes when we were up there, when we did that podcast at Reclamation. Do you
Yeah.
remember that? I think I remember telling the dude from Reclamation, like I don't care if your brewery makes bad beer, but you're cool. I'll still come support you, and I'll drink like mediocre beer if you're fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, I want to help out cool, nice, genuine people.
Yeah.
So if I find out you're even the slight bit like, but on the flip, like if I find out that like you're making the best fucking beer in the world, but you're a shitty
you're a trash
person,
individual,
I'd rather go drink mediocre beer and put money in like somebody's pocket that I feel actually deserves it.
Yeah, because I mean, you want to, exactly. You just want to support good people, and I mean, honestly, like, you know, the more good people that you support, it, like, you know, but it's, you know, what's kind of crazy though, that like, I don't know, man. What I've learned from history is that like there's a lot of like the really, really great fucking people are fucking terrible. Like, because I mean, if you look at like, one, in order to be a great in whatever it is that you're doing, you got to be off kilter. You got to have a fucking skew that nobody else has. That's what makes you the great, right? And I mean,
Sure.
like, then, like, you know, so you're the way that you look at reality is off from what everybody else does. Then, you know, if you're one of these greats, and especially dependent upon, like, you know, what time in your life you found this or whatever. I mean, like, if people find you early, then they're telling you your entire life you're great, you're fucking great. And, you know, when you do shitty shit, they're probably kind of making excuses for it, or like sweeping it under the rug, or looking the other way because you're so fucking great. So like, you know, you don't get the same, like when I'm doing shitty shit, when I was doing shitty shit in life, people were like, yo, that's some shitty shit that you're doing. You can't keep doing that shitty shit, dude. And I had to like be a better person because I couldn't do shitty shit because people wouldn't accept that shit because I wasn't great at anything. I mean, but like if I could fucking like sing and dance my ass off and like, and sell, I could sell like 1 million fucking tickets, then people were like, man, you're shitty, but like some of these motherfucking tickets. So, all right, you know what I mean? I guess I'm gonna look the other way. So then you like grow into this, and like you mean, or if you're great and nobody's noticing it, then you're like you're building all this animosity, and it's like, and you're in this different world. You're still honing this talent. You know what I mean? Like, but you're in a different kind of space, and typically, like, you know, people aren't like, you know, relating to you in a certain way. So, you know, if you're found, you know, later in life, now you've got all this weird fucking resentment or whatever. Maybe you've been like, you know, squirreling away in the basement, and you got like some squirrel bones down there or some shit like that, or like, you know what I mean? Like, or you make it big and now you're into like fucking like sex dungeons or some shit because you've never like, you know, been looked at like in a certain, you know what I mean? So like, you know, there's like, so there's it like, it's crazy. I mean, like, you know, it's very rare where like you get like a LeBron James situation where like that dude is fucking great. Like he's been like one of the greatest fucking athletes since he was a fucking kid. Like he's been attention, never had a scandal, like never really like, you know, fucked anybody over, like just doing,
maybe,
you know,
I mean,
nice shit.
Like maybe his weird shit just ain't that devious. Like maybe he got a problem with like Fruity Pebbles, like
something.
He just can't stop
I mean,
eating like.
Yeah, and he might be in.
Maybe he has like one of them weird OCDs where like they have to wash their hands every 2 minutes or something like
something,
that. Everybody has something weird.
Something is going on. I mean, like he eats his scabs or some shit. Like, you know what I mean, it'd be some weird shit. But like, I mean, that's the thing that, like, you know, again, and it's kind of like that's why I kind of like the oversensitivity a bit. Like I like the exposure that people have or whatever because these days because like I think that you know if we're going to change that pattern, like I said, of the greats being weird and sometimes like oftentimes terrible people, we have to like kill idols. We can't like make can't idolize people and go, oh my god, like they're so good, like so good that like I can't
Oh
believe they would
yeah,
do anything bad. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
like that whole Bill
No, I
Cosby
think
shit, and people are like, oh man, like why Bill Cosby's like, we mean why Bill Cosby? This motherfucker's raping people. Like, I mean, like but people were like because they idolize people, they don't even want to believe it when they hear it. It's like I think we as a culture need to move past that like star worship and shit
yeah.
and be like,
I have a hook on my new album, and the hook is actually I'm too wise to idolize anybody else. My only role model is my goddamn self.
yeah, I mean that's a
And I think
fucking
that's what it's like. The only people you should be looking up to are like the people around you, friends, family, peers. I think like this whole idea, like the society that we're living in, just we spend too much time digitally outside our bubbles, and we let our fucking worlds around us fall apart. Just let the pillars crumble, and then everybody's low key miserable. Why? Oh, because you're too focused on what fucking like Takashi 6ix9ine's snitching situation is
mm,
versus like making sure like you're paying attention to your girl,
mm,
or like hanging out with your fucking kid, or doing
mm,
whatever. Just hanging out with a fucking friend.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like call
yeah,
up a fucking friend. Yo, want to go get a drink? Like, is there something going on? Nah,
yeah,
nothing's going on. We're just connecting. Human shit.
yeah.
A lot of people overlook that stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Get caught up in bullshit.
yeah. I mean, we live in this. I think it's just because people want to escape, so they like throw themselves into the lives of these people. That's why you have a reality TV star as the president of the United States, like because that's like they feel like they know these people. They feel like if they're winning on TV, then they're actually winning. I mean, like, and they get to like live vicariously through those people. That's why like the Kardashians are such a powerhouse of a thing because they just share all of their dirt and all of the whatever, and then people get to feel like, oh, I'm close to that. It's like a walking talking, like what are those magazines, like the Inquirers and shit like that, or
Yeah.
the I mean those Star Mags or whatever you get at the grocery aisle
That's
or
an
whatever. Like,
interesting comparison.
I mean, that's like it's just like that. People were like, it used to be the magazine. It's like, oh, I never understood that. It was crazy. Like, I remember like as a kid and even like as a teenager, like seeing these magazines. Like I remember,
You remember Bat Boy?
I remember like opening. I remember opening up one of the magazines, and there was a story about the bagels that Brad and Angelina Jolie ordered for like brunch, and the type of cream cheese that they used, and the way they swirled it, and what they fed their baby. And I was like people are really like they're devoting like paper and ink. This is space that somebody like paid, and somebody's gonna buy the magazine, and they're gonna read. They want to like that. That's what like this isn't even. This is before like when digital content, like what's the server space? Who gives a fuck? I could write about it. I could put it out there. You want it? If you don't, whatever. This is actual like paper. Like
Yeah.
people were like, and I'm like, that's what people wanted to know. Is that like really? That's what fucking people want to know is about. Like it was about the bagels that these people are eating. So when and this was like the late 90s, early 2000s. So here we are now, like of course they want to know all about the Kardashians and like what fucking like if they wanted to know the cream cheese that fucking Brangelina were putting on their bagels back then, now like oh my god, like what shoes are you buying, like all this stuff, and like now you get the Instagram and all this, and they get to follow all these people, like they're living like oh my god, they're just like us. I mean that's the feeling that they want. It's like oh they're just like us, like they're people too, like it's not so bad. I'm like a Kardashian. Look, I got the same makeup as them. You know what I mean? Like we're living like that while like society is crumbling around them. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't know. It's a sad state of affairs because, I mean, most people are poor. Like the vast majority of people are pretty not well off. I mean, it's like something like 70% of the folks don't have more than 1,000 in savings. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when you have like, numbers like that.
And I even pushing aside like monetary wealth, I think just like wealth and like mental well-being and health in general
Mm.
and things like that. A
I
lot of
mean, but
people let
some of
shits.
those, yeah, I mean, but I think
It's
some
all
of those are
connected.
tied to the
It's
sense
all
like if you
connected.
have your
Absolutely.
basic needs kind of met, then you're able to have a bit more time for mental health, this and the other. Like, I mean, I don't have like I'm in a comfortable place, a comfortable-ish place, but I don't have a lot of time for mental health breaks and like to do
Yeah.
it because like I have to work almost like constantly. I gotta, I mean, like there's no days off for me. Like my days off are going to do something that's work related. I don't spend a lot of time with, like my friends and family, like in the sense that like, like my social life, like is like almost like nil. You know what I mean? Like it's either work and when I have time off, like I'm usually too exhausted. I'm like spending time on the couch or like
Yeah.
maybe going like, doing something with the kids or whatever like that. That's about it. Like every once in a while I get to hang out with the kids or sit on the couch and then it's work. So like, and that is important to have time with your friends and family. You know what I mean? Like,
It's
to
real
go,
important.
but that's the society that we live in. And we always got to be busy. We got to, so I think that takes away from that, like because you're so busy chasing, like not so much chasing money, but like chasing comfort. You know what I mean, like there's a difference between like I need to like drive a Rolls Royce, and I would like to maybe I don't know, retire someday if that's a thing. I don't know if we're ever going to even see that. I don't even know if our generation is going to have the ability to retire. Like,
I don't know. I see a
like,
lot of old motherfuckers working places,
yeah,
so
you know what I
I
mean?
think
Like,
that's already out the window.
so, when you're just chasing like, what like it's weird. Like the bar has moved. Like our parents, like they were working towards like a retirement and an after thing and the other. We're just working to like pay the bills, to be honest. Like, I mean, like most people that I know are just, like they might have a home, a mortgage or whatever, and like they're, like they've got some bills and whatnot. Like, what I mean, but they're really just chasing like stability. Like,
Well, I
not,
mean, there's so many like borderline conspiracy theory conversations you can get into about like uh when the 40-hour work week was introduced to people and like what the term of like a modern day slavery perhaps is in some sense, and like corporations being new slave masters in some sense, and kind of instead of it just being one like one like a certain demographic of like ethnic people, it's like fuck it, America in general, you know what I mean? Like
mm,
we're gonna fuck you all over and have you believe that we'll get you into like all these crazy school debts and all this all these things, and like who's making money? It's all the people at the top,
yeah, it's
and we're
very,
doing all this work for them in big ways. Like you think about the way like big way things have changed over the course of history just in the past 100 years with like all the different technologies and what drives industry, you know what I mean? And like I don't know, again, it's a conversation I'm not smart enough to have, but if you
mm,
think about it for a little bit, it's like holy shit, like what the fuck, who are we all, what are we all doing, who are we working for, why are we doing this,
mm.
and
Yeah, no,
how
I
much.
mean, it's a system. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely a system. It's a system for a reason, and I mean, it's I mean, like there's very little checks and balances when it comes to corporations and the way that they fund our government. So if you're able to buy votes, then you're going to be able to buy a government that's going to be able to structure laws in ways that allow you to take as most advantage as you can of the people of that country. The government is supposed to be a buffer,
Yeah.
and that doesn't work when the government is for sale. I mean, you literally can fund whoever you want to put them into office, and then that person can write, so like when you have that free ability to just buy a representative, then why would you have strong like labor laws, and like, I mean, why would you have a country of people who, if I'm putting in 40 hours a week, like, and I'm like, I should be able to get like, what I mean? Like I'm, if I'm working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, like I should be able to afford some vacation time, but I can't. And most of the people that are doing that can't. But the people that are at the top, that's where they spend a large portion of their time.
Oh
So I
hell
mean,
yeah.
it's structured. It's very much structured that way. Um,
I'm trying
And
to.
until we get campaign reform, like it's just really not going to be, like unless we get campaign reform, and a lot of people are like, oh, the government is any other, keep it out of it, like let the system regulate itself. Like that's not how that shit works, at all. That's and you need the government to step in and say, hey, like no, we need to make, like that's what the government literally is. It's a government, like they're supposed to govern. They're supposed to like come in and say, hey, no, you're fucking up. Like, listen, one, you can't be like polluting our rivers and shit like that. Two, maybe come on, man, pay your dues a little bit more. Like, I mean, like, because if not, we got to pay ourselves even more. Like, it's double dipping. We're not only giving them welfare at the top to create these jobs, like they're not paying taxes on a lot of these things or whatever, but then they're creating jobs that are gonna that are dependent upon our taxes. So it's like, come on, man. Like there's, but it's built like that because those are the laws that are there in place that allow them to pay us $7.25 an hour. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like that's they're able to they're able to pay us $7.25 an hour because they paid enough representatives to never vote to really raise it more than that until we get that reform or we get so many people that are like angry. It's never going to change. So
Have you, like, I am not very much a political person at all, but obviously through the course of the past few years it's been kind of hard to not tune in. I feel like if you weren't paying attention before,
yeah.
2016, you should have probably shifted, and if you haven't shifted, there's probably something fucking wrong with you.
Yeah.
But there's a dude named Andrew Yang who's talking about running for president. Have you listened to any of his stuff about like his
he's the universal basic income.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's the wave, man. That's like that needs to be the wave.
His discussion on it was one of the first ones I've heard, just at least from his perspective, that I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I unfortunately don't see somebody like him making it to the top, but hopefully his ideas trickle into somebody else that might have that power.
It has to come, man. I think what's happening is that people are starting to understand the importance of local politics, their ability to influence local politics, and how you could put somebody in office at a grassroots level and push them up through the ranks and to make these changes. I mean, like, and something like universal basic income is something that is just like, it has to happen at some point. I mean,
it's like
automation is coming.
Oh yeah,
we have. We have the ability as a race, like as a species, to make our lives, our day-to-day lives, the technology that we have, the day-to-day lives, make it easier for everybody. We don't need to work as hard as we're working. I mean, we really don't. Like,
yeah, no.
But we're doing it because of an outdated system. I mean, a monetary system, and like, I mean, the incentives that we have in the system are outdated. We're too busy trying to chase dollar, and we put an incentive like, oh, well, work hard and then you get this or whatever, as opposed to on innovation. I mean, like, and then the like individual property like rights is a travesty, because like you have an idea, you make it, now your incentive is to keep it from as many people as possible in order to make money off of it and then give it to the world. And as opposed to, why don't I have this idea, now let me share it with the collective, so that, oh shit, somebody thought about this and then they add it to it and now it's better, and now, oh shit, we all get a better product because everybody has access to it, and then, oh shit, now all of our lives are much easier now so like, I think something like a universal basic income kind of takes away some of that, like, that greediness and some of that hoarding. I mean, like, and I see it.
Yeah,
like,
I like the like some of the stuff that was brought up about like how, it could probably reduce just like simple crimes and violence and things like that, just in terms of like somebody feeling like they need to go rob somebody because they need a couple $100.
Yeah.
If they're getting that couple $100, then, hopefully people aren't going to become, I think there's going to be some circumstances where, like, if it happened, people are always going to want more no matter what you give them. There are some people that are never fucking happy, but I think it would definitely drastically reduce some sort of a percentage, and any sort of reduction's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, like it would reduce crime. It would reduce, I mean, like a lot of disease, and there's just so many different things that, like, whenever you take the basic, you give the basic needs of folks. I mean, I just read an article that was saying, like homeless people, in this one city in Cali, they were like spending $30,000 a
Oh,
year
I
on
believe it.
homeless people,
Yeah.
to like like with the police and jail and all this other stuff. Whereas to house them was only 10 grand. So they're paying like 3 times as much on these people by not providing the basics. You see what I'm saying? Like, and when you provide people with the basics, now you have you have productive members of society who are giving back to society. I mean, like,
Yeah.
if I have my basic needs taken care of, I'm not robbing people. I even have some stability. Now I can maybe go out and get a job that, like, I mean, now that I have an address, so I can go do that or whatever. Or, if I have free education, I can go get an education. I can educate myself, and then I can start a business or, go work for somebody. And now I'm putting taxes into into the system or whatever. Again, like the society wins.
I
You know what I
love
mean? Like,
yeah, the idea too that like when that was brought up around the universal basic income, where like there are definitely so many ways that we can restructure things to make the money, like the money's there, and then people act like once the money's there, people are gonna fucking spend it. It's all gonna go back in.
mm,
It's like, so instead of like these like this just these invisible like dollars that go into like funding jails or other things, it's like that's money that people were spending on like TVs and stuff like that,
the,
and that's
the
all taxes that the government's gonna
The
get.
problem is that like they keep giving they keep giving all this money to the rich people with this trickle down bullshit.
Yeah,
Like every time there's a tax break, every time there's like some sort of, I mean, all this, like, people always like talk about welfare and how bad welfare is, but like honestly, like corporate welfare is the vast majority of welfare in this country. Like it is, like, I think something like, I mean, we're like paying per person like pennies, like that comes out of every dollar that, like, I mean, of welfare. Pennies actually goes to the poor people. The lion's share goes to corporations, who in turn create jobs that are welfare dependent. Now, instead of just keep giving these fucking, like, these tax breaks to these corporations in hopes that they'll create jobs or, like, put it back into the system or, pay their people more or whatever, you can give it to the fucking people. And you know what people do when you give, they actually spend that shit and they
yeah.
put it back into the economy. Whereas the people at the rich folks, they take that shit and the majority of that portion they save, and then they sprinkle a little bit to the rest of the folks. Whereas like the vast majority of the shit that you give to the poor folks goes back into the, I mean, that stimulus shit or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But now, instead of giving that to them, once in a while or whatever, you just have like that fucking $1 billion that you're giving to these, whatever, give that to the fucking folks. So now, like, all right, well, now, shit, well, my rent's paid. I got a car to get to work now. What should we do? Maybe go to work, maybe start a little corporation or something. Like, maybe I can go, hone my brewing skills. Maybe I can, like, learn how to play a guitar or something like that. Maybe I can contribute, go do some community service or something like that. I mean, maybe I can give a portion of charity. Maybe I can do
And
something productive with myself that is going to better myself, my family, and society, as opposed to, like working 60, 70, 80 hours a week.
yeah. And I think another thought that I just had too is with the rise of automation and things of that nature, and some people getting kind of pushed out of certain job fields. I mean, there's always going to be other areas of trade that people can focus on, but then there's also going to maybe be less desirable jobs where you don't make as much money, but those positions are going to need to be filled.
Yeah.
But with the counterbalance of like a universal basic income, it might make it not so difficult to be like, oh, well, I'm taking this job where I'm not making as much money, but I still have this, and
Yeah.
it's available to me, it's close to home, and I'm still able to make a living off of it.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like, if you provide those basic needs and, like, you educate people, like, education is the best birth control. I mean, like, on the planet. So, if you're talking about like how to better spend money as a society, like educate people, so, like, the stupid motherfuckers aren't out here having all the babies. Like, that idiocracy shit is real. Like, I mean, the educated folks, they have like 1, 2 babies. I mean, unless they're like, rich and they, or Mormons or some dumb shit like that, and they get, then they get all fucking done with the 8, Mennonites and shit. The motherfuckers be multiplying. But like, for the most part, like, the more educated you are, the less babies you're having, and like, when you do have a kid, it's a bit more, well-rounded, taken care of, and then they become productive members of society. So, like, again, it just keeps paying for itself in so many ways. Like if you're providing these basic needs for folks and they're getting an education, now they're less likely to go out there and fuck raw dog. You know what I mean? And then like have all these fucking kids out here in the streets and trailer parks full of fucking like idiots who are then in turn doing the same motherfucking thing. Cause like, like they just keep doing the same bullshit. And then they like, they live and die in these coal mines or, in these fucking like, McDonald's factories, wherever the fuck that they're at, like just trying to get by because again, they don't have their basic shit taken care of. So I don't know. I mean that can go on forever about like how taking care of the people at the bottom makes most sense in society, but I don't know. Like I said, none of that works until you get campaign reform. I mean, that's just, because you're never going to get anybody that's going to oversee the corporations until you stop, allowing them to just buy votes. So I don't know. Man.
I think it starts with focus on people being more focused on local government. I think, there's obviously a big picture that needs to be tackled, but I think that the local government stuff is something that a lot of people have just taken for granted for way too long.
Yeah.
It's like a situation, like say you go to a restaurant and like you get something like a meal that's real bad, like real bad. You're like, yeah, like can I talk to the manager? It's like, why aren't we like asking to speak to the manager of like local government when shit's not going wrong? I mean, some people do it, but not enough.
Yeah. We definitely have to have a much better understanding of like,
and I say
who
that
controls us like on a local, because I mean, like your city, your township, your county has so much, on you. And then your state, like I said, I can smoke some weed out on a fucking corner in California, and that same shit would ruin my life here. You know what I mean? Like it's the same country, So, but they have they have a great understanding of local politics out there in California. You know what I mean?
Pennsylvania has some weird laws all over the place.
Yeah, no, man, fuck this Commonwealth. My God, man, yeah, it's a man, yeah.
Well, I will say this before we get into ranting about the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Let's put a pause on this episode here. Right. Well, not a pause, just a full-on stop. And I'm gonna thank you for coming over.
Hey, I appreciate you
chatting.
Having me, man.
This was good. This was like a yin and yang of a conversation here. I might even split it up. Like one's like the fun beer talk, and the other one's all like the world's going to shit. What are we doing about it? Talk. I don't know. It's so weird because like for such a long time, I was that person that didn't give a shit. I was like, whatever. It's not my place on this earth to figure this out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
So, but I still don't know what I need to do. So I'm like trying to get more, I guess, air quote, woke in some sort of sense and just pay more attention to what's going on and just so I can have these conversations. And then whenever the time comes for me to put my voice out there, I can actually be like, okay, this is why I'm choosing to do these things.
Yeah, I mean that's some old man shit, man. I'm the same way. I mean, as I get older, I think we're also in a place where we can do a bit more than we were able to do, 10 years ago. I didn't know enough to feel like I could speak confidently on various matters. You know what I mean? Like, and even if I did speak on it, who the fuck would listen? So I think that as we get older, like, I think it takes a time, at least the smart ones, for us to first learn the shit and then even have an understanding that like, oh shit, we can actually have like, I can have an impact on that. Like I couldn't have an impact on that. We didn't
fucking, I don't know like where you grew up or how you grew up, but like with me, I didn't grow up in like around people that paid attention to this stuff or ever talked about it.
Yeah.
Like it was like, the idea of opportunity for me, growing up like in the city in Pittsburgh and Wilkinsburg, like it's like nobody talked about that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was all like my family just was into, it was like, well, we got to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and me, it was just like, well, I'm going to ride my skateboard and shit like that. And just like nobody ever talked about it. And then high school happens and all of a sudden I'm working all the time. And then, I get kicked out and it's like, well, I'm just working, trying to keep my shit together. And then it took about, over 10 years. And then finally I'm in a place now. It's like, okay, well, I got a house and all this and that and stuff. And it's like, okay, like now things that people were talking about in terms of like all these taxes and things like it's like making sense. Like, oh, I see how this affects my
Hmm.
life now
Yeah.
because like I've been fortunate enough to be able to get myself into a place that's grounded. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that are still, I mean, hustling nonstop. They don't even have the time to stop and think or listen to like a podcast with somebody and hear what the fuck's going on, or like
Yeah.
they don't even have the time to engage with that information and like process it. You know what I mean? It's like they get an hour of time to themselves. That's like, fuck it, I'm gonna watch Netflix because I fucking worked my ass off all day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like when you're out there hustling, man, it's hard to care about things outside of yourself. Like, I mean, when you're constantly just trying to put food on the table. So I think another portion of that. Like I've always been kind of, I mean, since college, kind of like politically minded, but not so much active and not always like even an understanding of fully how it worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I knew that things should be different, but I didn't know what or how, you know what I mean? Like so, I'm definitely,
Is
learning
there
more about the local government, about like, the comptrollers and shit like that. You
is
know what I
there a
mean?
part of like, and I hate using this like terminology, but do you think there's a part of your platform that encourages you to be a little bit more active because you feel like you have this place in society with the community where like you can like say something or put a thought out there and you're actually going to get engagement from it, whether it's positive or negative or whatever? Does that help, like knowing that like there are people paying attention to you
Yeah, no,
now?
I mean it helps a lot because it I guess for me it gives me some encouragement that like what I believe is right in some sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not alone in that thought. Like, all right, and it also kind of gives me some direction that like some people don't always get. Some people are like, unfortunately they live in, pockets of people and bubbles and whatnot. And I have a bubble myself, but I mean it's a little different in a sense because, I'm a bit more of a public figure. When I say things, people are like, can't wait to disagree with me. So like I'm always kind of like, um, whenever I say things, like it's not like I say things and everybody's just like, yep, 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 you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right. It's not like a bunch of yes men. It's actual like conversations. You know what I mean? I actually like in like, I encourage that. I follow Fox News, I follow Brett Bart. Like, you know what I mean? I get different points of views, right wing, left, whatever.
It's important to know
Um,
like what other people are talking about because if you're going to go out of your way to like, quote somebody or say some shit or like, bring up something that you disagree with, you gotta have knowledge of what you're actually disagreeing with
yeah,
instead
I
of just like
mean,
spitting off a bunch of
yeah,
assumptions.
yeah, assumptions, and then just repeating, what you heard on another thing, and then you're in these, echo chambers or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
I mean, so like, having a following of some sort or having like, a voice, helps. But like, it also there's pressure because, like it was one thing to, you know, you know, 10 years ago whenever I was, screaming on, MySpace or some shit like that about whatever the fuck, like nobody really cared. So like the consequences were, a little nil. But like now, like, if I say the wrong thing, like it could be a thing. You know what I mean? Like so there's there's a bit more, there's more responsibility, you know what I mean, in that. And so it's a double edged sword. Like I don't always like it. I mean, sometimes I just want to like fucking disappear and like be a beach bum like somewhere in Cali and just like
yeah,
where nobody knows my name and just like, live some nondescript life. But like, um, I mean, I do appreciate, the ability to kind of say some things, highlight some people, some different voices, and hopefully like, make some kind of impact in the way that I feel is right. Like knowing that like that I'm, what I feel is right isn't always what's right. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna be wrong. I'm gonna make mistakes.
yeah,
So I don't
I feel you. This has been a long chat, dude.
know.
I'm all like, Like, you talk for fucking, like, you probably get this a lot because you do the double days like I do too. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's just like, I can't I don't want to socialize anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna go home and just game the fuck out. Like,
yeah,
I'm gonna just smoke a lot of weed and just game.
I'm gonna fucking chill. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. We still don't got power.
Oh yeah,
there's no power in the house. I haven't had power for the past fucking like 4 hours. But I'll tell you what, this little recorder's still going strong. So shout outs to AA batteries.
Yeah, that was dope. So Duracells in that bitch. Shout out to
I got some like rechargeable shits,
Nice.
But fuck, I mean, if you're still listening at this point, you probably already know what the fuck they got going on.
Yeah,
but you can let the people know where to find you.
If you're looking for me, I'm on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. On iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play, and Spotify under Drinking Partners. And I'm on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, I already did that, IG, Facebook, and Twitter at PartnersPod. And then, Dave Bracey. Just, if you Google that, I usually come up.
Word. You've the fortunate circumstance of like having a birth name that's unique enough that you didn't have to like come up with a stage name.
Yeah, no, that's my stage name. I don't have that. Nobody knows my government.
Oh, you got a government name?
Yeah, I got a government name. That's my stage name.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Fooled. I was fooled.
No.
I need like I guess I kind of have like I have a stage name, right? But there's a lot of people that always assume that Sikes is my last name, and I just kind of let them roll with it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was Brian Sikes for quite some time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Day Day was like, it's been my nickname. Day Day has been my nickname since I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so.
Fair enough.
Like my dad's initials were DD, so I was always Day Day. So like whenever I got like on stage, I just was like, it was redundant. So it just was Day Bracey. But like, I was working in social services for like 10 years, so I couldn't like be on stage and doing all the wild shit.
It's so weird. There's like there's this dude that I know who goes by John, but I just found out recently that his real name isn't John. It's like something else. And I was like, but like it's not like a stage name or nothing. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know what that's all about, but whatever. Do whatever you got to do.
Man, I don't be asking any questions. I'll be like, hey, whatever you want to know. Because if I know too much, I might, you might have to off me. So like,
well, let's. I'm gonna wrap this up. I do my outros post recording, so that's it. We're gonna stop this right now. And thank you again for coming over, man.
Hey, man,
it's been good chatting. It's always good chatting.
Yeah, this is always dope.
All right, and we're done. And that is all, folks. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Shout outs again today. If the Fresh Fest Beer Fest is anything that you are interested in, please be sure to look it up. Get your tickets and check that out. It should be a pretty fucking good time. I'm hoping I get to make it there this year. And I don't know. I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Sikes. Start the beat. 2019. Whoop, woo. Thanks for listening.